Hello, Danny.
Hello, good evening, Danny.
No, you're Danny.
Yes. Are you related to Diana Abbot?
What?
With the amount of rubbish you're spewing out this evening.
No, me and Diane Abbott not related.
Well, you've got a real hatred towards the government. I understand.
Yes, I have.
Agree with them.
Yes.
But some of the things you're putting out are so distorted from the truth. It's shocking.
Right, correct me.
Number one is junior doctors. How much do they get paid? Let's have a complete breakdown of what they get paid. They won't do that. They won't tell you how much they have to give for their pension, how much they give to the union leaders. They don't tell you that. They'll just tell you what they take home at the end of the week.
Right, well, they take home about 25% less than they used to about 10 years ago, something like that.
You what? They used to get £20,000 and now that they get less money? Or are you talking about because of inflation?
Yes.
There's a big difference.
Well, because of inflation, of course.
Inflation, a lot of people have gone down because of inflation.
Right, so that makes it a good thing?
No, inflation is an unfortunate situation. I've lost out because of inflation. If everybody wants to keep up the way of living when inflation goes up, then somebody's actually losing out a very lot of money because of it.
No, that's not the case. No, if you don't increase your wages in line with inflation, then you're getting a pay cut. Why should junior doctors have a pay cut?
If I'm running a small business and I've now got to give everybody more money because of inflation, I'm now got to put up all my prices, don't I?
Well, that's inflation.
Yeah, so therefore, I'm causing more inflation. That's all inflation does, is it creates more inflation. Unfortunately, the inflation hasn't been a natural inflation. It's been caused because of three issues. COVID and the war in Ukraine are the main two reasons of the inflation.
That's COVID, and the war in Ukraine. Well, there's Brexit.
There's no proof to say that Brexit has caused it. It's very easy because Brexit took place just before COVID. It's very, very hard for the economics to say whether Brexit has been a cause of inflation or not.
It isn't. It isn't hard for them at all because all they have to do is look at what happened to the rest of the world, who also had COVID and the war in Ukraine.
It's amazing. It's amazing you haven't mentioned that America has just lost by two of the companies, their AAA rating. They're only AA plus now. We don't speak about the other economies around the world that have been hit terribly at the moment, do we?
Well, America is doing significantly better than we are.
No, they're not.
They absolutely are. Danny, look it up.
Yes, they've lost a AAA rating over the last 2 weeks.
That is completely irrelevant. You're talking about the economy. The Americans' economy is just flying at the moment. We are in the doldrums, as you must know, surely.
I really think you should find some facts out before you.
These are the facts, Danny. You're the one that is misinformed. Just read about it and then call back. Painful. Colnbrook. Nick.
Hi, Nick. Nice to talk to you again.
Yes, sir.
Right, first I have a confession. I was one of those silly suckers that got fooled by Boris and our other friend, and I did sign up for Brexit. Now, at the same time, I'd like to put you in the same ballpark. Now that we now hear that the university that gave Mayor Khan the figures for the fumes and the air quality and all the rest of it has now been proved that they are saying that it's not as dangerous as it's all been made out. We're all having to drive now at 20 miles an hour, so the cars are worse. So they're shoving out more because of the way they're being forced to drive. The air quality is not going to be as bad as it is for outside of London, where the UZ is about to start. How do you feel now, the same way that I do about Brexit, that you have been suckered by giving us all the grief of how bad the air is going to be when it's not, and the figures have now been proved that the only reason that the Mayor Khan wants all this money is to run TfL because nobody else will give him any?
Blah,
Did I get
blah.
that right?
No, I don't really think you got any of it right, Nick. Here's what's happening with you, Les. 90% of the cars in London are already passing the test, so they won't have to pay any money, correct?
Yeah.
90%. Okay, so now we're down to 10%. So 10% of the people who drive cars in London are now subject to these fines. And the people who are complaining won't be all of that 10%. They will be at most 10% of the 10%, because a lot of people are taking advantage of this moment to scrap their old cars and get their $2,000 or their $7,000 for the van or 12,000 for disabled vehicles or whatever it might be. They're taking this opportunity. They're getting nudged to change their cars. So we're not even talking about 10% of the people that drive in London. We're talking about a tiny percentage of those 10%. So let's say 1%. Or let's be super generous and say 5%. So 5% of the people that drive in London are now making all of this noise.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
But complaining that they are having to change their behaviour in order to benefit the other 95%. Why the hell should the 95% of the people in London have to put up with the 5% who are insisting on polluting?
Nick, we don't all drive all the way into London. Some of us go half a mile across that barrier before we end up being at our place of work.
Yeah, blah,
also,
blah, blah. It doesn't make no, never mind.
Airport at the moment have got the vehicles that tow the aircraft, the Bowsers that empty the sewerage and refill the water tanks or tow your luggage around, are all exempt. All exempt. So if he's exempting these vehicles, what's this great worry about this air quality? It should be everybody or nobody.
Are you kidding me? The vehicles that tow your luggage at the airport.
The airport tow the aircraft.
How many of those are there, Nick? What are you talking about? I'm sick up to here of people whining about you, Les, like they think they're in the majority. You're not. You're a tiny minority of constantly whining people, and I'm so bored of hearing it. This entitled... it's a tiny rump of constantly dissatisfied people who complain about everything. You complain about the bike lanes, and you complain about the bus lanes, and you complain about the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, which you already have done. And there's absolutely nothing that you won't complain about unless you're allowed to do anything you want like babies. I'm so over this conversation, Nick. And to be fair, I didn't bring it up. You did. I'm just closing it down on this show. Harrow, Jonathan.
Happy birthday to you, Nick.
Thanks a lot, Jonathan.
I had no idea before, because I'm having a stressful time nowadays. I had no idea today was your birthday.
You're having a what put on?
Stressful time.
You're having a what?
Stressful time.
Oh, stressful. You're having a stressful time, yes.
So
why is that then?
I had no idea that today was your birthday, and you're so dedicated. You are presenting your birthday, so best wishes.
No, not today. This week. This week has been my birthday. It's my birthday week.
Oh, yes. Happy birthday.
Yeah, thanks.
You know, Ranjit was talking about kabaddi as a sport.
Yeah, what is that?
Because I'm from Kolkata. You know, the Calcutta... I just knocked something over. The Calcutta, no offense, where the British were based and were looting India from.
Right. What did you just knock over?
I knocked over some hand gel and a bottle of orange juice.
Hand gel and a bottle of orange juice. What, you making a cocktail?
No. But I went to the Afghan restaurant today, and I'm so stressed I walked out with a glass. You
went to an Afghan restaurant?
Yeah. There were no white people in the customers.
Right.
And I'm so stressed.
Is that about... that stressed you out? Because there were no white people?
No, not that.
Right,
I'm not white. I'm saying I walked out with a glass.
Mm-hmm.
But
why... Hang on a minute. Why did you walk out with a glass?
Because I have high stress levels. I'll tell you in a second.
I'm not sure that is a defence in a court of law.
No, because I was walking midway and I was drinking from the glass, and I thought I have to return it because I can't have the Afghan bread because of my bowels. That's true.
What is it about Afghan bread that upsets your bowels so?
Now, any bread. I'm the glutton and wheat intolerant.
Right.
You know, so when I was in India, I couldn't get anything that was gluten-free, wheat-free.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is this, with the Kolkata where I'm from, the kabaddi was a big sport, and it is basically two groups of men, and you have to chant. You don't know what British Bulldog is.
No.
The kiddies play it in the school playground. You have to, it's essentially the same thing, and you just, essentially, if I'm playing it with you,
Yeah.
or say you, me, Nick Ferrari, and James O'Brien,
Right.
and the three of you are chasing me, and I have to do in one breath, and this is absolutely true, you in one breath, in one breath, you have to do.
Wait a minute, is that your neighbour banging on the door, banging on the wall again?
Again, yeah.
Yeah, right.
In one
Do you
breath,
you spend all day long in your place just shouting? Because it seems like he has like a trigger finger as far as trigger finger's not the right phrase at all. But I've eaten a lot of glass today, Jonathan. I'm not thinking straight. Your neighbour appears to be on the edge of fury with you at all times.
I'm spending more time in the house because I'll tell you about kabaddi in a second, but I'm spending more time in the house because of my work situations. My financial streams are running out, and I'm getting very stressed. I'm having to think about selling my BMW. No, I'm being serious. It's
right. Well, that's very, very stressful thing to consider. Yeah, you've had to sack one of your two cleaners, and now you're thinking about selling your BMW.
No, I'm on cleaner number 4. He's an old Englishman, and he did not show up.
He didn't show up. The old Englishman didn't show up to clean your place.
Because I tell you, I voted Brexit, and now all the Europeans have gone, and it's just English people. No offence, I'm not a racist.
But
but they don't show up. They don't show up, you know. So,
no.
But the kabaddi is the kabaddi is in one point, in one breath. So if I'm playing with you, Nick Ferrari and James O'Brien, you're all on one team, and you have to, and I in one breath have to say kabaddi, 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 like this.
Mm-hmm. What's the point of doing that?
No, that's the sport. It's like you can search for it on the YouTube. They used to play it on the Channel 4 in the 90s.
That doesn't sound like a game to me. That's I don't know. It sounds like you're having a fit.
But you asked me about it.
Well, that is true. It is my fault. Yeah.
Can I quickly mention something about this the situation now? I mean,
well, you better be quick because your neighbour's going to start banging on the wall again.
No, just very quickly. So my financial situation is crumbling now, and I just think, you know, we don't have free speech in the UK. For example, this women's football, you are correct. Nobody gives a damn about it.
Well, I don't think I put it quite like that. A lot of people do care about it. It's just that not me personally. I'm not remotely interested in the Rugby World Cup either. But that doesn't make me a Nazi.
The Women's Rugby World Cup also not interested.
No, I'm not saying the Women's Rugby World Cup, if indeed there is such a thing. I'm saying the Rugby World Cup, the Men's Rugby World Cup. Don't care.
No, but listen to me. The point is,
I am listening to you.
They've kicked me out of my office, the rent space that I used to rent, and it's been very stressful. And each radio station or television I switch on, it's always the feminism, and this is not a sexist thing. But it's every radio channel, every television station. Let's empower the women. Now let's stop being wokey and teach our kiddies to do something other than the twerking, vaping, and promiscuity. Because I'm being serious. Because the way my finances are going, Nick, I'm genuinely thinking, how will I get to the end of the year without going to Kolkata? And I'll probably have to become a prostitute.
Okay, well, I wish you the best of luck with that, Jonathan. What are you thinking of charging?
A homeless man once said to me, he said...
Okay, you know what? Whatever you're about to say is probably something that I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear what a homeless man said to you in relation to the subject of selling yourself for sex. Pretty sure I don't want to hear that. But I do wish you all the best in your new endeavour, Jonathan. Islington, Barnaby.
Hello. I can't remember what your name is.
Nick.
Hello, Nick. How you doing?
Good, thanks. Barnaby.
Right. Well, I don't think we talk about street searching.
Go ahead.
Well, I don't think it's so bad. I wouldn't like to be stripped naked in the street, but if you're taken away into an appropriate place or whatever, I have no... Well, it would be kind of funny to see it, certainly, but I was having a problem about it unless I was doing something wrong.
Right, so you're of the opinion that if you're not doing anything wrong, you have nothing to fear?
Absolutely.
Right, but that presumes that the police would always act in the best interests of those people that they have power over, but we know that that's not true.
In what way? How do you mean you know that's not true? Of course it's true.
I think you want to read the news every now and again, Barnaby. Of course it isn't true. Not in all cases, but there's very well publicised cases that can't possibly have gone by you. I wouldn't have thought. Lewisham, Jane.
Hello, Nick.
Hello, Jane.
This all started with Cameron, and all of the others that have followed have got worse. But it is now an emergency.
It started with Cameron.
I think this is
nonsense.
Yes,
definitely.
Really? And people who followed him were actually worse.
Absolutely.
Any names in mind?
Every single one of them.
All of them.
Worse as they go along.
Yes, I would agree with that.
And now we are in an emergency. It shall be horrendous if we don't start to sort it. And I don't think we can wait. I think that Rishi, wherever he is, should resign.
Yeah, he's not going to do that.
I think he should think about it. I hope he's listening.
Yeah, he's not going to do that
he
either.
He doesn't need the job.
No,
right,
which makes me curious as to why he's doing it. I mean, why would a chap who can earn without doing anything at all the same in one day that he would pick up as the wage to be the Prime Minister in a year, why is he doing it? Curious.
Maybe... I don't think it is curious. I could give you an idea. I think that he should seriously think about resigning because he's even messed up the police force and they can't protect him.
I thought that the previous worst... I thought the worst Prime Minister we ever had was Mr. Blobby.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
And we can dismiss the trust bot.
Absolutely.
Because she was there in position for such a short and brief period of time that you blink and you missed her. But I do believe that Rishi Sunak is actually worse than Boris Johnson, because at least with Boris Johnson, you kind of knew what you got. A man who was utterly self-interested and self-centred, who wouldn't do a single solitary thing unless he thought that he could benefit from doing it. But Fishy Sunak, he's got this sort of, these little puppy dog eyes, this sort of pleading look to him. I'm not a threat to you. And he absolutely bloomin' well is. He's worse than Boris Johnson. That shut you up, didn't it? Anything to add? No.
No.
All right, good work. Thanks a lot, Jane. Birmingham. Hello, Tony.
Good evening, Nick. Nice to speak to you.
Hello.
A bit earlier on, you said you think more people will watch Match of the Day than the Women's World Cup final.
In this country?
Yeah. Are you sticking by that?
Well, I've got no idea. I mean, I imagine. I'm not putting money on it, if that's what you're asking me.
How many people do you think watch Match of the Day these days, then, Nick?
I don't know. Tell me.
2 million.
Is that all?
Yeah. Nobody watches it anymore. It's
You just said 2 million.
Well, 2 million. From its heyday, it's shrunk drastically.
Well, that's because we now have 1,000 channels to choose from and everything that's on the internet.
Well, there'll be at least 10 million watch that game tomorrow, or later today, whenever it is.
Yeah, but you don't know that. You're telling me a precise number of something that is going to happen in the future.
Well, how many million do you think will watch it?
I've got no idea.
Way more than... There is a bit of interest in it, Nick. You might be right. It may not be on everybody's radar,
right,
but people will be watching it.
Because it's the final of the World Cup, Tony. How many people watched the games leading up to it?
Well, 11 million watched the semi-final.
Right. Before that?
I don't know.
How many people watch the qualifying games? I mean,
No,
you're comparing. If you want to compare and contrast, then it would be how many people watched the men's World Cup versus the women's World Cup. If that's the comparison that you're trying to make, Tony, if you're trying to suggest that there is equal interest, then that's the comparison you make. Not match of the day, which is at the beginning of the season, and the games at this point numerically don't really matter that much.
Well, it was you that said that, Nick, not me. You said more people will be watching Match of the Day than the Women's World Cup final.
Right. Well, we'll find out when we get there. Hey.
Correct. And I think Prince William is a bit of a football fan.
How do you know that?
And, well, he turns up at Villa Park every so often. There's some bizarre story about he has a memory of seeing Aston Villa win the European Cup when he was 5 or 6, and that's stuck in his mind. And
sure.
So he is a bit of a football fan.
Yeah, okay. If you say so, Tony. First, Horton Regis. Craig.
Hello.
Craig.
How you doing, mate?
Okay.
I am here.
Okay, great call.
I've got an opinion on everything.
You've got an opinion on everything?
Yeah, so which one do you want to go on? Because you've talked about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of stuff, yeah. Well, you choose. Surprise me.
Well, I'm sort of central beds. So I live in Horton Regis, which I'm not really sure whether it's south, north or east, west. Or,
okay, that's a great start. You've got no idea where you live. Yes.
No, so I think it's disgraceful. Whatever.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely awful, isn't it?
Disgusting.
Yeah, terrible.
I think it's disgusting. I really think it's disgusting. I think something should be done about it.
Something definitely should be done about it, Craig. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Is this show starting exactly like last night's? The man didn't know where he was. Asylum seekers were driven away from the Bibby Stockholm after a deadly Legionella bacteria was found in the migrant barge's water system. All 39 migrants on board the vessel were evacuated today, just 4 days after the first 15 men stepped onto it in Portland in Dorset, and are being moved back into the same blooming hotel they were in before.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Which means that diseases have now been added to the list of enemies of the people, which includes, but is not limited to, lawyers, judges, teachers, nurses, junior doctors, lefties in general, the woke, unions, Mick Lynch in particular, The Guardian, the BBC, people who are concerned for the welfare of others, people who have preferred pronouns, youngsters, footballers who talk politics, and Jeremy blooming Corbyn. Now the lovely Cruella de Brave has had another of her dreams sadly dashed as small boat people marched off her lovely big boat. And all because of some lefty Legionnaire's disease, which sounds pretty French to me. A Home Office spokesmodel said that the woke microbe can bleep off back to where it came from, because that is apparently how His Majesty's government talks these days. Not Her Majesty's. I keep forgetting. I'm not in love anymore. A Home Office spokesmodel said that blooming microbe can bleep off back to where it came from. I mean, he's the deputy chairman of the Conservative Party. You wouldn't believe it if you didn't know you were living through it. Isn't that right, Smug?
You're better informed than I am. I don't know anything.
He doesn't know anything. One doesn't need to know anything if one's born into wealth. Why does anybody pay a single solitary second's worth of attention to what that man says? And in case you think that this was just an isolated error of judgment, to send people to live on top of each other in confined quarters where a deadly disease lurks, remember, this was just days after the Home Office told an asylum seeker with tuberculosis that they were going to be moved onto the Bibby Stockholm barge. Tuberculosis, a highly infectious disease that spreads through the air. What could possibly go wrong? I mean, it's so stupid from a health perspective that you have to dismiss concerns for people's health from the government's thinking. They don't care about them. And you might conclude they don't care about you either. I mean, is your experience of the health service that we rely on better now than it was when the Tories took over? Or is it worse? Take your time. Think it through. The doctor treating the migrant with tuberculosis tried to prevent the move to put him on board the floating prison ship and warned of a public health catastrophe in the making. Well, it might appear to you that the one thing this government actually excels in is creating public health catastrophes. It's their number one priority.
Under my leadership, the government's priorities are your priorities.
Yeah, you've still got that the wrong way around. Our priorities are supposed to be the government's priorities. You don't tell us what our priorities are. Especially, like, gazing at us with those sad puppy dog eyes. And his little suit and his gelled hair. Isn't he an absolute dream? Dr. Dominic Metz, an actual GP for more than 250 asylum seekers in Oxfordshire, told the I newspaper that 10 of his patients had received letters from the Home Office saying they would be moved to the barge. Some of the patients are awaiting surgery and mental health support, which he fears will be disrupted by the move, and one is under active treatment for tuberculosis, which could pose a public health risk if it became active and spread. Doctors are also concerned about potential outbreaks of other diseases, which include, but are not limited to, scabies and diphtheria, both of which have been detected in other asylum seeker accommodations as these spread faster in crowded areas. Now, I don't know anything about scabies and diphtheria, but they sound pretty Victorian to me. The good old days are coming back under the Conservative Party when we only lived till we were 35 and we were glad of it. Doctors are concerned about this. Doctors are. But, you know, what do doctors know about medicine? And it also might appear to you that causing as many of the population to die as early as possible is also the government's number one priority.
It's the country's number one priority. It's my number one priority up and down the country, and that will be our focus.
He's gripping it. This is from The Economist from March this year. In recent years, Britain has been hit by one health crisis after another. This is The Economist, by the way. You know, the lefty, woke Economist. They said long before the pandemic hit, Britain endured a grim decade during which perhaps 250,000 people died younger than expected. That is the number of extra deaths in Britain compared with similar countries such as France and Denmark. The reason is that in the early 2010s, life expectancy stalled in Britain compared with long-run trends and other countries. This slowdown in life expectancy struck all age groups, not just the elderly, and it disproportionately affected the poor. If you travel 10 kilometres, 6 miles, from the poshest part of Kensington in London to New Cross Gate, life expectancy for men falls 18 years. And when more people are dying and life expectancy is stagnating, a greater number of people are also living in ill health. And the thing that happened here that didn't happen elsewhere was Tory austerity. 14 years of cuts and defunding of everything we taxpayers thought we were paying our taxes for. Health, social care, the things that improve a life, good wages, security, all gone, just memories. We're living shorter lives in worse health. If you're poor. If you're rich, of course, then you won't have noticed, because none of this austerity affected you, apart from making you richer, also known as the plan. Everything's going very well. Camden, hello, Joe.
You're not suggesting Villiers is corrupt, are you?
No. I would think I was quite clear about that.
Right.
This is a terrible line, Joe.
Is that better?
I don't know. Carry on, let's see.
Right. I'm ringing about the boats. I heard you mentioning the boat.
Oh, yes.
Okay, now, I'm interested to know if the British authorities done anything in partnership with the French authorities to restrict the supply chain. Because someone out there must have a boat shop the size of bloody IKEA.
That's a good point, yeah.
Right. Now, if you stop the supply of boats, they can't get in them and cross the channel.
Yeah, you can't fit people in a boat if you haven't got a boat. That's just a fact.
There you go. Now, the French authorities, no one's going to convince me that they don't see these boats being dragged about on trailers like hackney carriages going down Oxford Street.
Yeah, but people have boats, though. I mean, are we to ban boats? I mean, there's lots of people who've got, well, not a lot of types of persons, like fisher persons have boats, and a lot of other people have, pleasure boats for pleasure.
Okay. Well, most of what comes across the channel are actually dinghies.
Are they? Are they? I don't know that that's true. But anyway, go on.
Well, from what I see on the news, most of them are in dinghies.
Okay.
Okay. So, as I said, if you can get rid of the supply chain, you get rid of the boats.
Yeah, but are you suggesting that we close down dinghy factories?
No, but they can investigate who is it that's going to this place and buying the boats regular. There's not a gang of 50 of them.
Well, I imagine if they're in the business of people trafficking, then they're not going to their local boat shop and buying them with a credit card. They're probably nicking other people's.
Oh, come on! How many boats are in Calais?
6? Is it 7? 1,000? Let's ask Zaphod.
And 1.
No, more than that.
Yeah, 2.
More than that.
6 million.
6 million boats, Joe.
No, there isn't.
6 million. You just heard the man himself. There's over 6. Well, a government minister, an ex-government minister, said so himself. Over 6 million votes. You just heard him say it.
In Calais?
In Calais itself, yes.
There you go. That's that warehouse site IKEA.
Exactly. Yeah. You want to write that down, Joe? Yeah. These are important facts.
A lot bigger than that. But anyway, that's my view on it, and I've not heard anything on the news or LBC or Radio 2 ever about anybody addressing the supply chain of these boats to the people smugglers.
Right. Okay, somebody should definitely do something about that. That's his view.
My view?
It's his view. All right, thanks a lot, Joe. Excellent work. I believe the French did offer to build with their own money a British processing centre over there in Calais. And our response was...
No.
Notting Hill. Hello, Luke.
Hey, Young.
Luke.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
So what I was saying to your thing is, there is another way to do it. I don't understand why they don't use hydrogen on demand. It's like you bolt a little bottle on it, and it kills all the noxons, and it brings the emissions down to zero.
Are you talking about repurposing engines that run on petrol and diesel to run on hydrogen?
Yeah, I'm just saying, if you ever, I fit these kits hydrogen on demand. Like I've got an E-Reg truck. It's a 354 diesel, and it's an old thing. And when that was made, the parts per million in that was way overspelled. But now, when I take it for a test, that's allowed in the zone because it's got a filter on it and it's got a hydrogen cell, and that brings it to 000. So we've been arguing with these people for so long to use hydrogen, but they won't use it. And all these people's cars that are being scrapped and that they're telling them to get rid of, you will need to get rid of them. You bolt one of these bottles on, the kit costs about 500 quid, and it destroys. It brings. Because what they've done, all they've done with these cars is fit these great big filters on them, right? So when it catches all the soot, and then you get out onto the motorway and open it up, and it dumps it all out again. That's all it's done. It just carried it out from inside and put it outside on the main, when you go onto the motorway. But if they were to put these and put some money into hydrogen on demand, this problem we wouldn't have a emissions problem or NOx problem anymore. Do you get what I mean?
Well, I'm actually trying to, but I don't know what the phrase on demand means. What does that mean?
What it means, hydrogen on demand means, is like when you turn the key on, you get in hydrogen. So you have a bottle with I can explain it, but you have like a bottle on there, you put a bottle on there with a rod in there, and it runs on water. Once you put the key on and start it up, it activates electrolytes, which produces hydrogen. And you feed that into the intake manifold. Because hydrogen burns hotter than the fuel, it destroys all the vapors. So the more you drive it, the cleaner the engine gets. Do you get what I'm saying?
Well, I understand what you're saying, but this is all news to me, and I've got no idea. I'm hearing all of this information for the very first time. I have to assume that there's some reason why. I mean, hydrogen is highly explosive. Well, I suppose petrol is, but we're used to containing that. Hydrogen is something else entirely. But it sounds like something you want to copyright there, Luke, and by this time next year you'll be a billionaire. Brixton, hello, Clive.
Oh, hello, Nick.
Clive.
Long time no speak.
Ah.
Nick, I have to put this to you. We will know when this country has reached rock bottom is when all the immigrants start rolling out again.
Yeah.
And then will the British Navy be there to stop them from doing it?
Yeah, bring them back.
So that they don't have to go to France.
Well, that is an interesting, somewhat dystopian future you've just painted for us there, Clive. But when the small boat people start rowing away, then we know we're in trouble. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's where we're heading, Nick. That's where this country is heading. I can see it now. I mean, it's going to be a terrible, terrible outcome for this country.
Right.
Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention to you, Nick, is this.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a terrible thing this week in Brixton, walking down through the main thoroughfare past Brixton Tube Station. An ex-army soldier lying by the side of the pavement with a placard put by the side of him. He even had his medals on. He's now homeless, right? Now, these guys that can come across here, they get put up in a barge. All right, granted, it turned out to be, but they're now going to be residing in a
Clive,
3 or 4 star
let me stop you there.
Poor guy.
Yeah, but let me stop you there. If you're blaming the people coming in on boats for the predicament of the chap that you're talking about, that is completely wrong.
No, I'm not blaming them,
Right.
Nick. I'm not blaming them. What I'm saying is, this government, Mr. Richie Rich, who's now over in Florida in the Walt Disney World, whooping it up. This poor guy is lying on a street in Brixton,
right,
that has put his life up for his country, and he gets treated like nothing. Whereas, all right, I mean, I've got total empathy with people that are, like refugees and whatnot. I don't want to see anybody go without. But this country's got it all wrong.
Well, I'll agree with you there, yes, but we can do two things at once. We can treat our veterans better, and we also have the ability to treat people who are in such desperate straits that they are going to get into an unsafe boat and cross one of the world's most dangerous waterways. We can do both things at the same time. And that's exactly what the government would have you believe, that the reason that they are sadly unable to treat veterans better is because of insert name of small identifiable minority here, whoever it might be. It changes by the week. One week it's single mothers, the next week it's benefit cheats, and the flavour of the week at the moment, which is going to run and run, is the small boat people, because they think that that's what we're most concerned about.
The country's priority is to stop the boats.
The country's priority is not to stop the boats. But, good point, Clive. Thanks a lot, mate. We should treat our veterans better. That's a contract that we have with them that seems to be broken. Shame on us. Let's have Kensington. Richard.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, hi. Yes, it's very interesting, this whole situation. I find it really rather strange.
Which one?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, there's so many of them. Let's see, all these people coming here, We haven't got enough space here in England. I mean, okay, I'm American, but I've lived here forever.
We haven't got any space?
Well, you know, people want to live near cities so they can have jobs. I mean, I don't want to live in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, but then as cities expand, then the middle of nowhere becomes next to a city.
Well, yeah.
But also cities go up, not necessarily out.
That's true. That's very, very true. But then, you know, you've got transportation issues.
Yeah.
If you've got to spend an hour getting to work and an hour coming home from work plus your work.
Right. Then perhaps you should move closer to work would be a good idea.
Well, if you can afford to.
Right. And
and
the answer to that is build more homes.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I look out the window and I've got Trellick Tower there, which is a monster.
Yeah. Why do people admire that architecture? It just looks hideous to me. Trellick Tower. It's just awful.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
That's the one with the separate stairwell, right? That's
right.
Yeah. It's just. That's right. Yeah. I mean, people call that a classic of brutalist design. It just looks. I just never found it anything other than hideous on the eye.
It is.
And that's your view.
Well, you know, as I said, I'm from New York, from Manhattan.
Right.
And you look at the Chrysler Building, the Empire State Building.
But very few people actually get that view out their windows, though. Only millionaires and billionaires get that view.
Well, we used to live in the village, in Greenwich Village, and you could see them easily.
Really? Out of your windows?
Yeah.
Okay, then. So how come you find yourself in the dog end of Kensington?
Oh, well, here we go. I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. Okay, when I was 18, 1968, height of the Vietnam War, I had to get out of America because the government wanted to throw me in the army.
Huh.
Yeah, so I ended up, my parents sent me to a lovely boarding school in France. And I spent, nearly 3 years there, and then came here. And I came here because I'm a rock musician, and rock music only happens here and in the U.S.
Yeah.
Rock and roll!
Pretty much.
Yeah, man.
I mean, does anybody really want to go out of their way to listen to French rock music?
No.
Not really?
No.
Not in great numbers, no.
No, not in any numbers, not even the French.
That's right, yeah, not even the French, yeah. They don't want to hear French music, quite right.
Yeah. Well,
so when you sort of fled the draft, the Vietnam draft, was that an illegal act on your part to go to France, or was that okay at the time?
Well, no, it wasn't. I mean, I left 2 weeks before I would be indoctrinated. And if they caught me, and there were people running around capturing people, they get rewards for dragging me back.
Huh.
Yeah?
Right, so you... right,
anyway,
no, but hang on a minute, let me finish. So that was... So when you went, when you avoided the draft... if they'd known that you were in France, could they have dragged you back?
Well, they didn't know where I was.
Right, okay.
But, you know, the thing is, it was really weird, because that would be an immediate 10-year jail sentence.
Wow.
I mean, and there was no...
He expressed himself in builder's language. We just forgot where he was at the moment. We were just having a chat, like we were in a bar, you know, having a beverage. Booze. And he just forgot himself for a moment there. But good work there, Richard. Thanks for that. Woking. Jeff.
Hello, Nick.
Yes, Jeff.
Your producer asked me if I've got a fish and chip shop in Wolverhampton. I said no. He said, thank God for that.
That's very disappointing. If you did have a fish and chip shop, what would you be frying tonight?
Well, funny enough, I did go up there the other week to a fish and chip shop,
And just he was about to close, and I said, "Excuse me," I said, "Have you got any chips left?" He said, "I've got loads." I said, "Well, you shouldn't have cooked so many, should you? Let's be honest." But no, I was a little bit concerned, Nick, about...
no. It's getting worse.
I'm here all week, Nick, but the thing is, I was a little bit concerned, a bit disturbed about hearing of Prince Andrew. He's been contacted...
He's been what?
He's been contacted unofficially by Priti Patel's people.
Hang on a minute, Jeff, is this another joke?
No. Well, it could turn out to be, but the thing is, they've been having discussions, Prince Andrew's people and Priti Patel's people, about reinstating his security.
Yeah.
Because he was stripped of his security over that misdemeanors, you know. But the thing is, the king, his big brother, King Charles, has already handed out an olive branch by inviting him up to Balmoral. So I think something's in the air. And also, Priti Patel is interested as to whether he's kept his helicopter pilot licence going.
Why?
And I've heard from a source that they're talking about having a shuttle service from London to Rwanda to try and cut back on some of the costs of sending people out to Rwanda.
Right.
Right.
It was a torturous route, but we got there in the end. Is that it?
Well, yes.
Okay, excellent work. Appreciate it, Jeff.
Thank you.
Right, so this is from The Independent. It says, while the cost of living crisis continues to escalate in the United Kingdom, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and his family received brickbats for dining at a restaurant which can cost up to $15,000. Sunak already received a lot of flack for telling a homeowner who was struggling with mortgage payments to the tune of £2,800 a month to talk to your bank. And, of course, that incident beyond stupid when he asked a homeless person if they were in business. I mean, there is no doubt that the man is not in touch with the reality that the rest of us are living in. The Prime Minister and his wife own a £5 million luxury penthouse apartment in Santa Monica, which is about an hour's drive from Disneyland. Their vacation includes them dining at 21 Royal, a high-end restaurant at the park. He ate a 12 grand meal in Disneyland. The full experience at the restaurant for a table of up to 12 can cost $1,250 per person. This includes, but is not limited to, park hopper admission, which is a one-day ticket that costs $185, valet parking at Grand California Hotel and Spa, as well as tax and tips for the 5-hour 7-course meal. A 5-hour meal? Good grief.
Boring.
I mean, just eat and go, for crying out loud. It's just food. In addition, guests who eat there are escorted by a valet and given a VIP escort to the site. He's going to get that anyway. He's the blooming Prime Minister. He will then sit at a table where he will be served cocktails. But, of course, there'll be mocktails because he doesn't drink. And then they'll be sitting down at a table which is beautifully decorated with fresh flowers and crystal glasses and gold-plated dinnerware. He's eating off a gold plate. Can you believe that?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, I can. Yeah. Sunak is said to be the richest man to hold the keys at number 10. Why is he that rich? Because he gambled. He made a bet and it paid off. And that's it. And now he's supposed to be some kind of genius, and we're treating him like a financial wizard. He just made a gamble, and it paid off. He and his wife have a net worth of, well, it says here, $730,000. But that's way out. Way out. It's about £730 million. The couple own several properties, including the Santa Monica penthouse, a mansion in Yorkshire, which apparently they don't ever go to because the windowsills are rotting, a 5-bedroom mews house in Kensington, and a pied-à-terre, if you can believe that, in South Kensington's Old Brompton Road. He's wealthy in his own right, and it's upset many of us who can't stomach his wealth amidst a financial crisis in the UK. Although it says the US here. What paper is this? The Independent News and Media. It's not our Independent, it's this American, etc. and so on. Where is it about the food? Why does it cost $15,000 to eat in a blooming Disneyland restaurant, crying out loud, especially for somebody who don't drink? Well, I hope he's got a flunky who is ready to pick up the bill, because he doesn't know how to use a credit card. He's like the blooming Queen, never carries any cash. Ooh. That was Anne Widdecombe. Anne Widdecombe's just made an unexpected entry. Blimey, wouldn't that be alarming? Ilford, hello, Chris.
Hello, Nick. Couple of things. Firstly, I'm a great admirer of your show. I listen to it most evenings from Friday onwards.
Thanks.
Secondly, I'm not anti-abortion. That's what I want to make clear up front. But in these particular cases, as I understand it, they've aborted their children from the 20 to 24 weeks. Now, I don't know whether you've seen pictures of fetuses after 20 weeks. They're pretty much fully formed. So, as far as I'm concerned, they've killed the baby, effectively. So, yes, they should be brought to court.
Well, in that regard, it's actually worse. Well, one of the cases is worse than what you've just described. One person admitted inducing a miscarriage. This was during the first lockdown, mind. So I guess there were extenuating circumstances, perhaps. But she was 8 to 8.5 months pregnant.
Yeah, no, it's just wrong. I mean, the truth is that the women you've had on before are saying, well, it's all anti-abortion and everything else. That's not the case. I mean, I'm not anti-abortion. And I think, as I remember, the law says up to 16 weeks you can have an abortion with just the okay of a couple of doctors. And after that, there has to be extreme circumstances to actually have an abortion. So I agree with that law. But as I say, it's not an anti-abortion thing. And other people have said, well, these women have to be absolutely desperate. So if I kill my partner and then say, well, I was absolutely desperate, nothing then happens? Of course not.
Well, that is, it's a similar argument, but not really, not the same, certainly. But you understand that, of course. Thanks, Chris. Southampton, Stephen.
Oh, hi. How are you doing?
Good, thanks.
I just think that it's important to note for the last 40 years, interest rates have been declining, which means that if you've owned bonds, you've done very, very well. But that's been broken, so it has profound implications. I think we are walking towards a disaster. I think that your man from St. Petersburg was talking about 1917, and in 1917 they closed down the Black Sea with all of the implications of that.
Wait a minute. There's somebody from St. Petersburg? Who's that?
He was waffling on about 1917.
Which show are you listening to?
Well, I listen to a lot of George Galloway, which gives an interesting view of the world as well. But
I don't know which station you've been listening to, Stephen, but it ain't this one. It certainly ain't this show. But misdialed. Please try dialing again. Isleworth, Eunice.
Good evening. Happy birthday, Nick.
Yes, happy birthday to me.
How are you?
I am great, mate.
Good. Two topics, basically. One was ULEZ and the other one was the National Health Service. Where should we start?
Your choice. You decide.
Shall we go ULEZ first?
Like I said, you decide.
Okay, so let's go ULEZ because I don't drive, but I cycle everywhere. But the why is it that if you babysit your carer, they put their prices up to visit you? What's this all about?
If you babysit your carer?
It says you are compliant, but what about your plumber, your babysitter and your carer? They will have to put up their prices up to visit you.
Right.
What's that all about? And,
what's that all about? I don't know, basic economics?
Yeah, but if it's £12.50 to leave your house, why will they charge you to visit your family?
Why would
That's
they? Because they're being. Is it more expensive to get to you? Is why they would charge you?
Yes.
Yes.
Basically, I think it's a shambles, and whoever came up... Sorry, it is a shambles, but whoever came up with this...
this ULEZ thing. Yeah, whoever came up with you. Any thoughts,
solution.
Boris?
I can't comment on that.
Yeah. It was him.
Before it was him, and then it was that Sadiq Khan who waited. Why is he... He should go. He shouldn't be mayor anymore.
Oh, for crying out loud, Eunice, I had this out last night. 90% of the vehicles in London, up to the edge of the ULEZ zone, are compliant, which means we're talking about 10% of the people in London who have a complaint. But it's not even 10%, because I would suggest that the majority of them are going to be nudged to get rid of their ancient belching vehicles. They'll take advantage of the $2,000 or the $7,000 or the 13 or whatever it is, depending on what kind of vehicle you've got, and they will buy another one. So we're not even talking about 10% of the people in London. We're talking about a tiny minority of the 10%. So let's be really generous and say 2%. 2% of Londoners are making all this noise in defence of polluting the air for the rest of us.
I know, but what I'm trying to get at is, why is Sadiq Khan putting the prices up to £12.50?
They're already $12.50.
Yeah, but anyway, let's go on to the next topic, which was the national... Sorry,
We've dealt with that to your satisfaction, have we?
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's the rant over.
Right,
the National Health Service was...
park that one. Go on.
Yeah. Okay, so you may be aware that in March of this year, I had to have some back surgery on...
I may be aware that in March of this year you had back surgery. How would I possibly be aware of that?
Your graduate assistant might know this as well, because there was a blood product, if you know, called stem cells.
There's a blood product called stem cells,
and now it's.
How would my glamorous assistant know about this, by the way?
Because I just spoke to him, and he knows about it, and that's why I'm informing your listeners that it is not a blood product.
What isn't a blood product?
Stem cells.
Stem cells aren't a blood product?
No.
Right.
Because because the doctor who did my operation said that this may paralyze you from the waist down.
Yeah.
And put you in a wheelchair, basically. So I am speaking to you now, still in pain. And then this National Health Service think it's funny to not do it in this country. What is going on?
Well, you're making a lot of sense, Sir Eunice, if that's any help. Thanks a lot, mate. We'll look into it. Glasgow. Hello, Eric.
Nick, good evening.
Eric.
Yeah, reference the never-ending problem, should we say, the never-ending drama that we have with these poor people that are trying to get into the country. The government are absolutely terrified in case a terrorist, something bad happens relating to terrorism. They're scared stiffless. They're absolutely... and it's not that far away. And so are the public. There's 50% of the public now reported that they're scared of terrorism, something happening. And it's something like that could easily spark off World War III, by the way this world's gone at the minute. Nick, if they listen, it's not that.
World War III?
World War III.
Well, only if the Russian president was found with the evidence smoking in his hands. I'm not sure that a terrorist outrage in this country would spark World War III, because it wouldn't be a state action, would it?
Not necessarily a state action, but something that's out of the... look what happened in 9/11. And look what the aftermath of it was. Look at what a catastrophic disaster, and we're still suffering from it.
But I'm not sure what the relevance. I'm not sure what the relevance is about what we're talking about, unless you think that by stopping people arriving here on small boats, you're going to prevent any terrorism happening in this country in the future. But I find that rather hard to believe, because there are other ways that somebody intent on evil can get here.
Definitely, there's no way of stopping something like that, but they will exercise, the government are going to exercise everything they can do to prevent it.
Right, and you think that that's what's happening now? Well, OK, thanks, Eric. Wisbeach. Hello, Sandra.
Hi.
Sandra.
I'd like to know why you keep sticking up for them.
Them?
Yeah, the immigrants.
Sticking up for them?
Yeah. I live near Wisbeach in Cambridgeshire. It's a little town, and we've got loads of immigrants there, staying in a hotel right in the centre of town.
Right.
You do your shopping, they're pushing you, they're shouting at you, they spit on the floor. I was sitting in a cafe on Saturday, outside a cafe, having a drink and cheese on toast, and they walk past and spit on the floor in front of you. They smell, they're breaking into shops down there, which we've never had before.
Right, so is that...
So you tell me, why is it all men coming over and hardly any women?
Well, if you're coming from thousands of miles away and doing on a very difficult and dangerous route, then it rather thins out the number or the type of person that could survive such a thing.
So you're telling me, I don't know if you're married and got kids or whatever, you leave your kids behind in a country that's supposed to be so bad that they want to leave, but they come by themselves?
But how do you know they have kids?
I don't. I'm just saying, if they have kids and wives or girlfriends, would you walk away from a country that they're supposed to be so bad to go elsewhere and leave your wife and kids and whatever you're at home?
But again, how do you know they have a wife and kids?
Oh, don't be sarcastic.
I'm
you know
not.
What I'm saying?
No, well, I really don't. No, if you're fleeing a war zone, then you take yourself and whatever you can carry and you get out.
Yeah, and your wife and kids if you've got them and all.
Yeah,
but they don't seem to bring any wife and kids with them or girlfriend.
Yeah,
they're all men.
Perhaps they don't have a wife and kids, Sandra.
So you're telling me if there's 100 men come over and none of them have got a girlfriend or a wife? No?
Well, none of them have a girlfriend or a wife. This is such a ridiculous argument. It's just... I mean, I could sit here and try to fathom that, but I just can't be bothered. It's just... I can't be bothered, Sandra. I really can't. Let's talk to Robert Oulds, who is from the Bruges Group think tank. Hello, Robert.
Hello.
So what are your thoughts on hearing that?
Well, I don't quite buy the conspiracy theory. Of course, there's usually two schools of thought in history. One is the conspiracy theory. It's all being engineered for some nefarious purposes. The other is the cock-up theory, and it is just that the Home Office are incompetent. And really, given what we know about the Home Office, the disasters that continually have affected that department, that no Home Secretary has managed to get to grips with under Labour or Conservative. You know, we're going back to the times of John Reid during the government of Tony Blair when he described the Home Office as not fit for purpose. It's incompetent. And, of course, many of the reasons why the asylum is actually granted in many of these cases is because the Home Office lawyers don't actually manage to get to the hearings where the judgments are made. They're not actually challenged because the department is that incompetent. And it can't just be because it needs more money, it needs to be needs more finance. There is a serious problem within the British civil service and unwillingness to tackle it. But I don't think that
the civil service only act in accordance with what the minister of the department wishes, though, surely. You can't blame the civil servants for the direction of travel of the government.
that is how that's how the civil service should operate. Except I think many people recognise that it doesn't. There's we've all seen yes Minister, yes Prime Minister. We've all heard the jokes about.
Yes, these are comedies. Let's not talk about comedies. Let's bring it back to real life.
If we want to, we can discuss comedies. And your previous speaker was a comedy show in terms of very accurate on many of the problems indeed, and of course the numbers, but suggest that this is an engineered crisis for then the Conservatives government to then try and make some political mileage, when actually it's damaging. It is damaging to the government that they have not got a grip of this. So they would be absolutely foolish to be highlighting this as an issue when they don't actually have any major solutions to tackle this. There's some.
It does make you wonder. It does make you wonder whether they actually want to tackle it, or whether they want to just keep it as a scab to pick at, and then blame lefty civil servants, as you've done, or lefty activist lawyers, as many say. It's all the fault of the Labour Party.
It's not a matter of right or left, and I never blamed lefty civil servants. I spoke about Labour Secretary of State saying that the Home Office is not fit for purpose, and I highlighted real failings which have been happening for years, where they don't actually manage to get their lawyers to the hearings, to where the judgments are made on whether or not an asylum seeker should have his status. It's not a matter of right or left, and in fact the left was traditionally against immigration into this country because of the effect it had on the least well off and lowering wages, and of course the whole process of people coming over to this country, they will in many instances disappear into the black economy and not be operating in unionised employment. It actually damages the left, and the left have been, I think, hoodwinked into thinking that they need to take this issue, when actually, as Polly Toynbee pointed out, immigration into this country, it currently makes the rich richer and the poor poorer. I don't think Polly Toynbee is anyway some mad right-winger or someone who's accusing the left. This is an issue that the left should get to grips with, but the Home Office, I think, are incompetent in this matter, and there are issues to do with research students bringing over their families, and bogus courses in many instances for people to claim asylum. That's something that's been going on for a long time. There has been measures to tackle that, but also, no one can possibly support the situation where we have at the moment 12,000 Albanian migrants in this country, who, of course, Albania, of course, a country that certainly has its issues. It had social breakdown in the 90s following the financial collapse of that country.
We're spending... Hang on a minute. Wait a minute, Robert. We're spending an enormous amount of time just dancing around the issue and blaming all sorts of people who aren't directly responsible, apart from... And the one thing I'll agree with you on is that the Home Office is incompetent. But we're spending so much time talking about a tiny percentage of the migrants that come into this country. Do you find it a bit strange that the government is concentrating all of its efforts on what amounts to less than 4% of the people that come here a year on small boats?
Well, that's a major issue of public concern, and we do need to recognise public concern in this issue, because people feel that the borders aren't being properly controlled.
Well, when you say people such as yourself say people as though everyone in the country agrees with you, but that's not the case. It's just a neat trick that those on the right use to make it appear as though that everyone agrees with them.
I'm thinking of David Blunkett, again, a Labour... different Labour
Robert, you certainly are not going to keep going on about the Labour Party as though the Conservative Party hasn't been in power for nigh on 14 years.
I'm referring to people of the right, and I'm bringing up people who are known to be on the left, who are warning about social cohesion and community cohesion issues. Labour Labour politicians who are of the left, who know that there's issues here.
Robert,
so you're trying to spin this as a right or left issue.
I'm trying to spin it. You've got to be kidding me. You spent 90% of our conversation so far blaming civil servants and the Labour Party for the position that the Conservatives have fashioned over the last 14 years, which I've got to say is exactly what I thought you'd do, so you haven't disappointed. But I appreciate your time. Thanks, Robert. It's Robert Olds from the Bruges Group think tank. Norman Tebbit, I believe, is their chair at the moment. Erith, hello, Steve.
Hello, Nick. Thank you for, I'm going to say putting up with me, because I've got confused now.
Steve.
Oh, yeah, it's, you know that fella who was on about 5 calls ago, and it was talking about, it was politics and voting, and see, I have lost me thing, but like it's not about what they stand for or anything. It's like the man on the telly,
No, I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I've got.
Would you like to have a moment to think about it?
Do you know what? I'll think about it and come back next week if that's okay.
Okay, he's going to come back next week, see if he can win the car. Oldbury, Ranjit.
Hiya, Nick. You
yes,
okay?
sir. Fine, thanks.
Yeah, I've been really angry for a week, but I'm going to keep calm while I'm talking to you.
Okay, maintain calm.
Maintain calm and maintain, radio etiquette.
Yes.
I want to talk about I'm a nutcase, Nigel Farage. Yeah.
Oh.
You're talking about how low can people go. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, basically, in India they play a game which is like British Bulldog, and they have tournaments, and there was a big fight in Derby, but we'll move away from there. He's put out a report on GB News.
What is British Bulldog?
I don't know, it's like rugby, I don't know, that's what he mentioned. It's called kabaddi in India, yeah? It's a big game where it's like you have to tag the other person and bring them down, and like wrestling and running and forget that. I just want to talk about Farage.
Aren't you describing rugby?
It's like rugby without a ball, though. Yeah, I want to talk about Farage. I want to talk about what an idiot he is. Yeah, and if he wants to sue me, hang
on a minute, Ranjit. He's not going to sue you, is he? He's going to sue me.
Okay, you're giving me a chance, right, to air my anger at him, yeah, because he's put out a video, yeah, where he's spoken to somebody from the Henry Jackson Society, which is supposed to control terrorism, right? What happened, like at a football match when there's a aggro between two gangs, yeah? Okay? What he's bought into it, on this GB News with his Fisher-Price glasses on, yeah? He turned around and said, well, I've been told that these extremists have infiltrated this country, right? And they call them the Khalistanis, yeah? The people that want an independent state for the Sikhs in India. He's on about them. He's carried on talking a load of waffle for 6 minutes, and then he goes, I've heard that it's not true.
Here, Ranjit, why are you watching that programme that makes you so angry?
I didn't watch a programme. Someone sent me a video. It's on WhatsApp. Anyway.
Somebody sent you a video?
Because these Sikhs are coming across on the dinghies. That's how far he's gone. I'm a Sikh. I was born in this country. I've contributed to this country. When the COVID was on, right? All around the world, the Sikhs provided food for the homeless. Right, and that's what he's bringing, because he's got no one else to fight no more, right? Because he tried to be the representative of the people with his banking thing. What I'm saying is, why does he peddle fake news for?
Because it makes people like you furious, and it makes and if you get angry, then it fires up his base, and they love it.
I want him to go to America and walk around with Trump.
There. And just stay there, yeah. Okay, all right. Ranjit, just calm. I haven't enjoyed this first half hour of this programme at all, and it's my birthday week. You believe that? Just take a breath, Ranjit, and enjoy this.
I'm immensely grateful to you for everything you've done in British politics over the last few years. I used to be an ardent Remainer. I voted Remain. I believed in the European project. Mm-hmm. I believed that staying in the European Union was the best thing for us. And then something happened, and something monumental happened. It completely changed my opinion on the whole situation.
What was that monumental thing, Mark?
I was kicked in the head by a horse.
Right, very good. Okay, fine. Thank you.
No, thank you. Are you feeling better, Ranjit? No, he's still talking. He's still talking. God. Ranjit, take a breath. Do you feel better now?
I feel totally better now.
Totally better. There, 100% success.
I am totally 100% on it.
He is 100% on it, and so am I. Finally, we got there. Only took about, 28 minutes. Well, there was an interesting article in... it was on the subject of Boris Johnson, actually. He had another one of his ludicrous columns in the Daily Mail today. Does anybody actually read that stuff? I mean, if I had given him whatever amount of money that they persuaded him to come and write his scribbles for them instead of any other right-wing publication, I'd be pulling my hair out, because it's just not very good. Almost as though he's not actually putting in any effort at all. But this was the... where is it? This is... really not ready. A.C. Grayling is a philosopher, Master of New College of the Humanities and Supernumerary Fellow of St Anne's College at Oxford University. He said, Boris Johnson has polluted and degraded an already dysfunctional political order further. His appointments to the House of Lords are proof of what can go badly wrong when an unfit person gets hold of power and uses it exactly as an arrogant fool would use it. Unfit, Bodge. Not that way. His House of Lords appointees themselves have made the mistake of choosing to be the targets of mockery and disdain for the rest of their lives by accepting his appointment of them, thus allowing themselves to be perpetually lingering examples of the stench of his occupancy of office leaves behind.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
I bet the cleaners are still trying to beat the stench out of the sofa. Oh, no, Fishy Sunak would have moved in his own sofa, wouldn't he? Fishy Sunak wouldn't have put his princeling bottom on any piece of furniture that had previously been sat on. But, and by the way, there is a certain individual who's gone missing. We have absolutely no idea where she is. I mean, she comes and picks up her paycheck right enough, but we still have no clue as to where she is, despite the fact that she said she was going to be leaving with immediate effect.
Bye-bye.
Thereby redefining the word immediate to mean at some point in the future, to be decided later. She was desperate to accept an appointment to the House of Lords and be the target of mockery and disdain for the rest of her life. Cruelly disappointed. Yeah, she's launched an investigation as to who is responsible, and the guilty parties will be punished, whether they like it or not. But they and he, says A.C. Grayling. They, the people in the House of Lords, that he stuck up the House of Lords, and he, Bodger Johnson, are also proof of a fact that of which we, the British people, should be profoundly ashamed. OK, here comes the part as to who is responsible for all this. And you're not going to like it. Spoiler alert.
Warning, warning.
It's you. They and he are proof of a fact which we, the British people, should be profoundly ashamed, that enough of us were guilty of such poor judgment, inattention, ignorance and preparedness to be duped and used, allowing this to happen in the first place. Used, and not in a good way.
Disgusting.
This is where democracy cuts both ways, for in the end, how people use their votes, who they choose, and whether they vote tactically or tribally is down to them. So if they choose badly, they get what they deserve. And so we have been punished for the failure to be what a democracy has at the absolute minimum to be, a community of thoughtful and responsible voters. Thoughtful and responsible. I don't know who he's talking about, but it ain't us. We can, however, mention a couple of slightly mitigating factors, he says. It's not all our fault. Let us ask why so much influence has been exerted by a dishonest and ultra-partisan media owned by non-dom billionaires with a vested interest in destabilising the country so that their preferred version of anarcho-capitalism can flourish. And let us ask why social media has found the British population such a plastic, malleable, easy playground for its bubble-creating, conspiracy-promoting, false fact-spreading downside. Yeah, On Earth, we are only beaten, as far as our gullibility is concerned, by America.
The American dream is dead.
Is dead, yeah. Him and his dingling fans are making us look good. Ain't that right, Donny?
Oh, shut up!
Hey, your darling husband is going to jail, Melania.
I don't care.
She's not that bothered. Let us reflect on the answer, says A.C. Grayling, because well-informed and reflective people would not be so easily duped by either a dishonest press or unreliable and distorting social media. It must be that enough of the British population is insufficiently well-informed and insufficiently reflective, more bluntly, ignorant enough and unthinking enough to be ripe for serving as their dupes. How has this happened, he asks. Think. I want answers from you at the back, or you stay behind after class. He says, among a plethora of answers, let's focus on one very central one. The failure of our education system to achieve a good standard of active intelligence in enough of the population. By active intelligence, I mean the useful general knowledge and the constructive criticism, or scepticism rather, that prompts people to test claims and promises made by those who want their money or their votes. Trying to educate on the cheap, one teacher per 30 pupils, not valuing teachers enough to reward them for the vital work they do, not equipping schools and richly funding activities including trips abroad, incurs a terrible cost. The price we pay is careless voters, exploitable by a system and its career politician operatives into putting someone as grossly unfit as Boris Johnson into Downing Street, to say nothing of the inadequacy of the people such an individual surrounds himself with.
You're better informed than I am. I don't know anything.
For instance. He says, to educate, classes need to consist of fewer than 10 pupils so that teachers have time to work with the individual grain of each pupil's mind and personality. Pupils should be active inquirers, not just passive learners, sit behind desks in a classroom. That means getting out and about. Doing, travelling, finding out, making. He says the value of musical education and art on general cognitive development, enhancing its capacities for success in maths and applied sciences, has been all but lost in the English education system. He says historical and geographical ignorance and wholly inadequate levels of competence in a second and third language make for narrow, parochial, limited mindsets. In conclusion, too many voters are insufficiently informed and reflective to vote other than tribally or self-interestedly in exploitable ways, and a large part of the reason for this is that our education system is too poorly funded to achieve in enough cases the kind of intellects that would be more resistant to such exploitation. Completely correct in every respect. None of the above, of course, relates to private education. In fact, he was pretty much describing private schools, where classes are 10 and less, so that teachers can deal with the pupils individually, and they get trips abroad and here, there and everywhere, and they're not just sat in serried ranks to learn stuff by rote, to regurgitate it back at an exam. None of the above relates to private education, just state education. And of course, the people who are responsible for the degradation of state schools send their children to private schools. Are you beginning to get it yet?
No.
And that Boris Johnson column, by the way, I mean, that was just... it's just a collection of tics and boosterish nonsense about being more like America. You know, what with their Apple computers and their Tesla cars. I'll save you the bother of reading it. And what he forgot to point out was that Apple products are made in China, and so are Tesla cars. So he just brays on in his usual style. I mean, so much that he didn't really have to write it. He could have just got an artificial intelligence robot to regurgitate a cocktail of his previous outpourings. What's interesting about the column is not the column itself, it's the reception that he got from what you would think would be his fans, the readers of the Daily Mail. Even they seem to have had enough of him. I looked at the column in the afternoon, and these are the genuine comments that were best rated. I haven't edited these in any way other than to take one comment out that is repeated. But these are from the best-rated comments down. And I thought I'll keep reading them until I get to a positive one. And time just sort of ticked away. And I thought, well, how far down this list of hundreds of messages do I have to go before I get a positive response? It's incredible. They hate you, Boris Johnson. OK, from the best-rated comment of Boris Johnson's asinine column in the Mail, how this twerp ever got taken seriously as Prime Minister is beyond me. That was the best-rated comment. Followed by, you're a joke, mate. Followed by, please go away. Followed by, go away, no one is interested in your thoughts and opinions. Followed by, please just go away. There's a lot on that, on that sort of that ilk. Johnson, you are a dreamer who has messed up the UK now for the next 40 years, as if anyone still believes a single word this charlatan says about Brexit. So, Boris wants us to be like the US, where the ordinary people have no protections whatsoever. No labour laws, no food safety, no healthcare, just a few billionaires taking everything for themselves. No thanks. Then, what nonsense, Boris? Followed by, really, shrinking the economy 15% wasn't enough. He wants to do even more damage. Return to free trade with our nearest partners. Then, vote rejoin. Then, the rot set in under Thatcher. Every Prime Minister after has betrayed us. Our country has fallen. Indeed, the Western world has. The common denominator is greed. They're all guilty. Your vote is meaningless. Wow. There's a person who appears to have given up. Then, Brexit Britain is broken. Then, Brexit Britain is a joke and will be for years to come, just like Boris Johnson. Then, desperate to stuff to justify a huge political move that's now proven to be a complete cluster. Followed by, is Johnson delusional? UK economy is worse off from Brexit. And lastly for this list, although they did go on, go away, you narcissistic, useless man, the worst PM this country has ever had. Or, in summation...
the great big greedy nincompoop.
The great big greedy nincompoop. If you can't get a good reception for your right-wing outpourings from the people who read the Daily Mail, Bodge, I think you'd better think it out again. Maidenhead, hello, Paul.
Hey, hope you well.
Good, thanks.
Yeah, well, I've got an answer for the world's solutions. You could have Mike Tyson and Donald Trump in the same ring.
I would pay a small amount of money to see that.
I don't know if Mike Tyson's a Democrat or Republican, though.
I'm going to say Republican.
Oh, God, well, they've got to fight it out then, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, Republicans hate each other just like everybody else.
They do, don't
they? They do, yeah. Defined by their hatred, yeah.
But when you were talking about earlier... I'm really into hedgehogs, and they love cat food.
You're really into hedgehogs? That's an alarming sentence.
I've got a lot of hedgehogs. But the main point is,
I don't think I've ever seen a hedgehog other than one that has been flattened by a car.
Oh no, I've got one in my garden at the moment, and I've got 3 round the corner. I've got about 6 of the blooming things. There's a tiny one, and And
what do hedgehogs do?
Well, they're just hedgehogs, aren't they? Just they float about being hedgehogs.
Yeah, they just spend most of their day being hedgehogs. It's a stupid question. Yeah, but I mean, if they're in your garden, what do they do? Do they dig? Do they eat your plants? What does a hedgehog do?
They mooch about, eat things, and just be hedgehogs. I don't really.
Right.
It's not like I've got a microscope on the hedgehog because I've got other things to do in my life.
You've got a busy life to be getting along with. You can't spend all of your time corralling hedgehogs. Of course not. So you put cat food out for them?
Oh, yeah. They only when, because you got to be careful of the rats. So I wait for the hedgehogs and put some water out, and the hedgehogs come along and they scoff it up. I found another one the other day.
So tiny. Apart from cars... what do hedgehogs fear? I mean, can a fox attack a hedgehog? Because a cat wouldn't. Even if it nicked its dinner, a cat wouldn't attack a hedgehog, would it?
I don't reckon. And those things can move fast.
Can they?
I had a race with a hedgehog the other day when I was walking up from the shops. I'm not joking. The thing was next to me, and I was just walking, and the thing was running next to me, and I think I said to Rachel Johnson, he just went off to hedgehog land in the bush. He beat me on the race.
Right.
And obviously I said, hedgehog, you coming out, going to have a rematch. Obviously the hedgehog doesn't talk because he's not.
It doesn't. Well, that is a relief.
And he stayed in hedgehog land. He did beat me.
Okay,
they can run fast.
Really move. I had no idea. The stuff you learn on this show. Educational, no?
No.
Birmingham. Hello, Shirley.
Oh, sorry. Hi, Nick. The problem with strip searches was the likes of Tony Blair changing the law and other governments after him. You had to ask a magistrate for an order to strip search somebody, and the law was changed where an officer at the station can make the law change. And the girl before you said the desk sergeant or any officer, and now they've raised it to an inspector to authorise the strip search for a short period, she said. But you had to go to a magistrate for any strip search.
Are you sure that... no, I don't know whether that's true or not. This is new information to me. Are you sure you're not talking about searching people's properties?
No, if you wanted to search the person, you had to put in... The police have backdoor channels to the law. Rather like our deportation, a lawyer can stop a deportation or march it forward. The police had to put in a request to the magistrate that they had to strip search somebody.
Right.
And they had backdoor channels, just like, what's that thing called? A search warrant. They had to raise a search warrant, but now they don't. So the police can search your house without a warrant. They can search you intimately by the authorisation of anybody at the station, because the girl said they've raised it to an inspector to make the order, apparently, for the time being.
When you say girl, you're referring to Shabnam Chowdhury, the former detective superintendent of the Metropolitan Police. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. But if the police were intent on searching you, then surely they could make a case that a magistrate would okay. I mean, they just have to say they get a magistrate out of bed on a Sunday morning and they say, well, we've got this person in, we'd like to search them. The magistrate is not likely to investigate the matter thoroughly. They're just going to say yes, aren't they?
Well, but it could act as a safety barrier, and it did act as a safety barrier.
Right.
You didn't have all these kids strip search. The kids commissioner said she was left cold, it kept her awake at night. So something's wrong if the child commissioner is saying that. This is not about moaning to the police, about the police, strip searching kids. This is abuse, really, with no oversight.
Well, I believe that if the person is underage, and I'm not quite sure what that age might be, it might be 16, then an adult has to be present, and that adult, as far as I'm aware, cannot be a police officer. And that can't be somebody from the police. It has to be either their own parent or a guardian or some other nominated adult.
But they don't seem to be following procedure.
Well, that is... in some cases, that is correct. Yes.
Yeah. Because my neighbour went to hospital, I think to visit somebody or take something. It was a psychiatric hospital. And to go in, they waved a wand over her body. So get these wands and just wave them over people if you're worried about a weapon. It's an absolute nonsense.
I suppose there are some weapons that wouldn't get detected by the wand, as you say, and if they're searching for other things... the drugs comes up a lot, but...
What about Glastonbury? You searched it if they're worried about drugs.
Well, they'd have their work cut out at Glastonbury, surely. But thanks for that. Kingston, Mark.
Hello? Yeah.
Mark.
Yeah, I don't know why they don't just... they can't run this country. I don't know why they just don't sell it.
Sell it? I think they've sold everything that isn't nailed down.
Yeah, it's like a tin of sardines of all these people coming over, isn't it? And
tin of sardines. Is that how you feel in Kingston? You feel you're crammed in like sardines in Kingston?
Yeah, Well, it was like that in the first place. It's got worse now, isn't it? It's going to get even worse in the future.
You think that we're crammed in like sardines?
Yeah, that's right. All over the country, yeah. It's a small island.
It's not that small. Have you ever been outside Kingston? Have you driven like 5 minutes outside Kingston? And what do you see?
More sardines.
No, you see fields, Mark. You see fields for as far as the eye can see, right to the horizon. Fields with nothing in them. Sardines. Merton. Hello, Ian.
Hi, good morning.
Ian.
One of the questions I've got is that when you take your car down to get MOT, they stick the pipe up the exhaust and you pass on the emissions if that is correct.
Mm.
So that seems to make an hypocrisy over regarding what goes on with this ULEZ thing.
Well, not really, because they're different standards.
In what way, Nick?
Well, the standards that will allow a car to pass its MOT are less strict than the standards that have been applied for ULEZ.
Oh, okay. So therefore, in Scotland, right, as I believe it, you get a fine, right? They charge you £100 if you drive in there. It's not a case of paying £12.50. As long as you've got 12, you can drive into London. That makes the hypocrisy of it all, as far as I'm concerned.
But it's nudging, though. It's nudging, though, isn't it? It's nudging people to change a car if they can, or to leave their car at home and take the bike or the bus, or
This is pie in the sky, Nick. I mean, as a plumber, what am I supposed to do? Take my stuff on the train and hopefully do it that way?
Well, there's
it's
there's
crazy.
grants available for small businesses.
Grants?
Yeah, up to £7,000. Could you not get a van for £7,000?
No, I shouldn't think you can, Nick.
You must be able to.
No, I don't think you can buy a van for £7,000. Not at all. But anyway, just one other thing. Just to let you know about the man who phoned up last night and said he drives a 2.7 Jaguar.
Oh, yeah.
I'll let you know, I drive a 3-litre twin-turbo diesel. That's the car that looks similar to what the trees are made to drive round in. That does 155 miles an hour and does 0 to 60 in 6 seconds. So therefore, it's a little bit different to what you were talking about last night. That it sounds like an old truck.
Yeah.
But that we was encouraged to buy diesel a few years ago. That was the way forward.
Big mistake.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
so
right.
there you go.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Ian. Ladbroke Grove. Hello, Vicky.
Hi.
Vicky.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry. I wasn't warned that you were about to do me, so I wasn't prepared.
Excuse me?
I don't understand why everyone's so upset about it. I mean, he should apologise. No, he should apologise. Clearly, he was really excited that they'd won. Really excited, and in the heat of the moment, he kissed her on the lips.
Okay. Well, if it had been the men's team, would he have been in a similar state of excitement and kissed the men on the lips?
I don't know.
Yeah, probably not.
You see a lot of that. Well, you do see a lot of that in the, when somebody scores a goal, you see a lot of kissing going on between the men.
On the lips?
I don't know. I think you do.
I've never seen that in my life. Well, maybe once, maybe twice at most.
But even so, is it really that much of a crime that he should lose his job? I mean,
well, he
should apologise. And if he is contrite about it, if he is, I think I heard on your show earlier that somebody was saying he didn't seem to feel repentant at all. Right. Well, that's a bit of a different story. But I mean, he should have rung her up and said, look, I'm really sorry. I don't mean anything by it. I was just a bit overexcited. I'm sorry. And that would have done for me.
Yeah, well, not for me. No, I think the man's... Yeah, he seems like not the kind of person who should be in charge of the women's game or any kind of game. If the women want him out, he should get out.
Well, to be honest with you, I don't know much more about him other than that particular incident. Yeah. I've no idea how he normally conducts himself and whether he's done other things before that have added to it.
Cornwall. Malcolm.
Hello, Nick. How are you, sir?
Great, mate.
Couple of 3 things. Hospitals and healthcare. I don't agree that private healthcare is better healthcare. It's just quicker.
Well, that's better.
And you have to pay for it. It can't be better because it's exactly the odds are it's exactly the same doctor you get who, if you wait 6 months, he'll treat you on the NHS.
Right, but the waiting 6 months part is the bad part. So
that's not healthcare, that's waiting.
Yes, but if you're waiting, then whatever it is that you're waiting to get seen is quite likely getting worse.
yes. But that's your health is deteriorating. That's not healthcare. But I don't want to be pedantic.
And I would question that, actually, because I think that the NHS would restrict certain things that would be provided if you have the money to pay for them privately. They would restrict, how many heart monitors they're going to give you, how many MRI scans they're going to give you, and how many of this and that. I get the feeling from GPs these days that they're not actually in the business of providing a service like they used to be, that now it's more like they're protecting the NHS from you. They don't want you to be a cost or a burden to the NHS. So that it's almost like they're out there as a sort of deflector shield. Can I get rid of this person in the cheapest way possible and the quickest way possible, so as they won't bother me anymore and there won't be another drain on the NHS?
Okay, here's my second point, right? And you're not going to like this one either.
Uh-oh.
I don't agree that private education is better than state education.
It is.
No, hear me out. You've just got smaller class sizes.
Better.
Look, a smaller class size is nothing to do with the quality of the education.
Yes,
Your education in a state school might be disrupted more, but the quality of the teacher is no better than a public school.
Well, that's questionable, but it is not necessarily... the one does not follow the other, no. But if both teachers are alike, then you will get a better result from one that is teaching in a smaller class, privately.
You'll get a better experience, but you won't get a better education.
Yes, you will.
The quality of the teaching is the same, Nick.
No, you're thinking of a teacher as a person that stands at the front of the class and just lectures. That's not what I'm talking about. A teacher actually does one-to-one with their pupils as much as time allows. And in state schools, they have got no time.
Thank you for making my point for me. I used to be a teacher, and that's the exact point I'm making.
Right.
What you're getting in private education, Nick, is more time with a teacher who is equally as good in the state sector as the public sector.
Right, possibly, potentially. I mean, they could be better, they could be worse.
Okay.
I mean, but let's assume that they're the same. So the result is that you get a better education privately. Yes, undeniably.
You get a better experience, Nick, in terms of the one-on-one time, and that results from smaller class sizes.
Yes, a better education. You get a better education.
Well,
you just do. You get a better education from private schools, and you get a better health outcome from private medicine. Yes, you do. That's why, because otherwise, what would be the point of paying for it?
Well, because you've got smaller class sizes, Nick, and therefore that teacher will give you more of their time.
Yes, better education. How are you not understanding this?
Oh, I understand perfectly, Nick. The point I'm making is that what you're paying for is more time for your child.
Right, a better education.
It's not a better education, Nick.
Oh my God! Yes, it is, Malcolm. Of course, it is. What you're describing, is a better education.
Nick, the quality of the teaching is exactly the same.
Look, we appear to be having a different argument. We're arguing across each other. You are standing up for state teachers, state school teachers, and saying that they... wait a minute. And saying that they are not necessarily worse than private school teachers. Okay, I will concede that. I mean, it's quite possible that a private school would select the best teachers they can find, because that was what private school pupils' parents would demand. Yeah, but state schools haven't got the money, though, have they?
But Nick, you go for an interview.
And if I was a genius teacher and I had the choice of, even if the money was the same, and I had the option of teaching in a building that was new and that was well maintained, and I had a smaller class size, which would be less stressful for me, I know where I'd go. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
so the best teachers will gravitate to where the money and the best lifestyle is, which surely is in private schools, so they get a better education. I'm not saying it's right. The reason that it's better is because the state schools and the state health service has been whittled down by a regime that isn't interested in using either of those things for themselves. They don't care how bad it gets. They're not going to use it.
I disagree with you, Nick. Sorry, mate. And on a lighter note, your man Jonathan, who was on earlier, I think he's gone mainstream. I'm quite convinced, let's say 100% certain, he was on with Sheila Fogarty in the week, speaking with a lovely accent, but with exactly the same voice.
Right. Okay. Well, if that is as accurate as everything else you've said so far, Malcolm, I'll take it with a pinch of salt if you don't mind. Thanks a lot, mate. Let's have Gwent Patrick.
Yes, there's you, mate. All right.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, the last time I spoke to you was for contract testing days. Anyway, listen, I'm not going to keep you. I've got a long way. I'm just concerned about the people that's on the boat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, how do they manage for catering and stuff? Because
how do they manage for what?
You know, like for the is it right? Say for instance, is it a working ship?
Is it a working ship?
Yeah. What I mean is, do you know, like the catering? If you went onto a ship now, then and the catering is on, the kitchens and everything are open, and so on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the crack here then? What do they have to allocate people jobs and so on? You know, all the chefs and the washer up and so on. No, I'm serious.
I have no idea. I would imagine not. No, I wouldn't think that they'd be staffing it themselves. No.
It's just going to be a bit of carnage on there. Otherwise, I would have thought.
Well, it sounds like a recipe for disaster, and it sounds to me like you're giving the government ideas.
No. Hey, the government, they should be ashamed of them. Well, they should be ashamed of themselves anyway. But I just feel for them people on that boat. You know, they've gone from one extreme to another, really.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, how do they manage? You know, is it a boat that's open with they've got chefs on there and the kitchen's there, and you go down and have your dinner and so on.
I'm not sure chefs would be an accurate description, but they'll probably have cooks. They'll have people that heat stuff up, no doubt. But I'm sure that full details will be released in due course. A former Environment Secretary has revealed she has shares worth more than £70,000 in Shell that she did not disclose as required for more than 5 years. Surprising, no?
No.
Teresa Villiers. You remember Teresa Villiers, don't you? Yes, that's her. She was the Secretary for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs from July 2019 to February 2020, but only this week disclosed that she has investments worth more than £70,000 each in Shell and the drinks company Diageo since February 2018. Villiers also disclosed shares worth more than £70,000 in Experian, held since July 2019, and an investment trust. Her disclosure follows revelations in The Guardian of scores of MPs who held shares that were, in effect, secret. House of Commons rules require MPs to disclose all shareholdings in a single company that are worth more than £70,000, but since his imperial bodginess swept through the nation like a child picking off the frosting on the cake, no one pays any attention to little old rules anymore, do they, Bodge? A spokesmodel for Villiers said she deeply regretted her failure to monitor the value of shareholdings and has offered her sincere apologies, adding how could she possibly keep track of a little matter of a £70,000 investment in an oil company when she was a minister in the government whose portfolio intersected with the interests of that company. I mean, it's not like they're connected. She didn't say that. She actually said that the shares were professionally managed and she did not take day-to-day investment decisions, which I think is what that top-hatted Twiglet says about his vast investments.
You're better informed than I am. I don't know anything.
He doesn't know anything about them.
I don't know anything.
Yeah. They're all completely clueless when it comes to their own finances, just very laissez-faire about their own money. You know, easy come, easy go. That's their motto. A spokesperson said, she takes full responsibility for the mistake. She accepts that it should never have happened, and that she should have kept track of the additions to her investment portfolio. She is taking steps to ensure that this never happens again. Nothing she has ever said or done as an MP has been influenced by these shareholdings. And her late declaration of her interest could place it in breach of the House of Commons Code of Conduct. In breach of the House of Commons Code of Conduct. That's funny. Good one. And it raises questions about the £70,000 threshold for registering interest, which it seems to have been devised with obstruction and concealment in mind. I mean, why can they own £69,999 in shares of a company that they may be in a position to do a favour for and not have to tell us? I mean, what third world oligarchy are we running here? The spokesman said, the Prime Minister's ethics advisor said, and the rest of that was drowned out by laughter. The Prime Minister's ethics advisor. That is funny. Brighton. Hello, Ben.
Oh, hi, Nick. Thank you so much for taking the call. I don't want to talk about the rights and wrongs of whether there should be somebody more important than James Cleverly going out, but I do think it does illustrate how fundamentally this lot have once again misread the room, because the whole country is genuinely behind the team. And
I don't know. Hang on, though, Ben.
I really, honestly, all my mates tomorrow, we're all going out. You know, I'm a bouncer for crying out loud. No, I hardly represent the wokerati.
Mm-hmm.
We're all going out and watching this stuff, yeah? So I do think they've misread the room. I do think that loads and loads of people are really, really interested. And once again, precisely because you're led by someone who goes out for £12,000 meals,
yeah,
he just didn't understand that actually the country was interested. So all of a sudden, hastily, they've sent along this pillock Cleverly, who, as you rightly point out, doesn't give a monkeys about football. I mean, look, I'm a Chelsea supporter. I'm probably more supportive of Arsenal than he is as a Chelsea supporter.
Yeah.
That's how little he cares about Arsenal.
I just don't buy that the whole country is on the edge of their seats as it would be if it were the World Cup final. I just don't buy it. I think people are trying to overcompensate. Yeah, but you know what I'm saying. I think that people are trying to overcompensate because up to now they've had zero interest in the women's game.
I think that's absolutely true, but I do think that this would help enormously. I mean, look, the Spanish are sending out Queen Letizia, which is quite a big deal, right? So they're sending out their own queen. Yeah. We could, you could pop Kate on an aeroplane, couldn't you?
But why?
So,
what's the point?
I mean, she's always on an aeroplane. What is the point? The point is, I think, particularly for the government, and it would look as if they were taking an interest in what we're taking an interest in. And at the moment, they're singularly failing.
Right, so pretending. You would prefer that they spent a lot of our money to pretend to be interested in the things that we are?
For their own sake, I think that might be a very good idea, yeah.
Right.
I really do.
Okay,
I think for their own sake, that might be a good thing. I don't know. Look, for my sake, I really couldn't care less, yeah? But I do think they've misread the room.
Well, if you present yourself to number 10 first thing Monday morning, they'll put you on their campaign team. Kensington. Hello, Richard.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, I find it all very interesting because the complexity of all this is so ridiculous, and it's getting away from the reality of it.
It?
Huh?
It?
It's getting away from the reality of stuff.
Stuff?
Yeah. The reality of the existing things that are going on.
What does that mean?
What do you mean, what's that mean? Oh, dear God.
Yeah, that's my thoughts entirely, Richard. You said it's... I can't really... Can I be bothered? Oh, all right, then. You said it's... we're getting away from the reality of it. What is it in this context?
Well, it is the complexity of the nonsense that's going on that is being portrayed.
Oh, well, you've really cleared that up for us. Thanks a lot, mate. Abbey Wood. Easy.
Hi, Nick. Essay. I would like to mention a couple of things, please. First of all, I want to register a complaint.
Uh-oh.
because, you're always talking about Pink Floyd and Dark Side of the Moon being the best album ever made and so on and so forth.
Well, I don't believe I'm always talking about it, but I may have mentioned it in passing that Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon is, in fact, the best album ever made. Yes.
Well, this week, before India decided to land on the Dark Side of the Moon, I decided to listen to it properly from beginning to end.
Yes.
And I was disappointed, I have to say.
What?
The first 3 songs, there was no singing in there. It was more or less random noises and instrumentals. And then the 4th song was 6 minutes long, and it was after it was after 3 minutes of instrumentals that the singing actually started. And I thought, okay, I'm used to long songs, but I'm not used to long instrumentals.
Yeah.
And
but you can't wait that long for the person to start singing. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
yes.
I can wait, but no, it's not yes, but I can wait, but
Ise, how old are you?
Oh, I'm 45. So
45? I thought you were going to tell me you were like 19 or something like that, and I would understand that because the kids today they don't have the attention span. Correct, the attention span to listen to an album all in one go. Because, they're listening to stuff on YouTube, and they don't even listen to all of a track because there's a whole list of things. If you like that, you might like this. And so I've done this. It's so frustrating. But you can spend hours just like listening to a bit of a track and then thinking, because you're presented with a choice of an enormous list of other things, and you say, oh well, I'll try that one, and you don't actually listen to a whole track, never mind about a whole album. But 45, you're way too old to be put off by the first part of Dark Side of the Moon just because there's no singing on it, for crying out loud. Do me a favour and listen to it again.
Well, I'll do that. But if an album is the best album ever made, you would expect that from song number 1, you're blown away.
No,
and then all the way to the very last song.
That's not true. That's completely untrue. I mean, think of art. A piece of art that smacks you right in the face first time will be pop art, like a banana drawn by Andy Warhol, or a target, or something like that, something really, really simple. And you look at it, and you see it in a moment, and there isn't anything really more to see in it. But that doesn't make it the best just because it hits you straight away.
No, I mean, I would disagree because there are some albums out there that from track 1 to the very last track is like you're on a roller coaster. And by the time you are done, you need to lie down and maybe a towel to put on your head because it's been quite a
name an album like that.
Oh, like All Eyes on Me.
All Eyes on Me. What's that?
It's a 2-pack album.
A 2-pack album, okay.
Yeah, from track 1 to the very last one, it's just mind-blowing, track after track after track, But
right, well, if you like 2-pack, then you're probably not going to be that impressed by Pink Floyd.
No, well, I like 2-pack, I like Aerosmith, I like Red Hot Chili Peppers. I like a wide range of people, so I'm not just. That's not
really what I'd call a wide range. That's all pretty much like furious and full on. No. Well, anyway, you're going to have to take my word for it. It is the best album that has ever made, and if you don't get it, that's not a fault of the album. That's a fault of you.
Oh, I see. It's my fault.
It is your fault. Finally, we agree. Protesters brought traffic to a standstill in Outer London Borough this weekend as they demonstrated against the expansion of the ultra-low emissions zone. Let's talk about this with Simon Forthrop. Simon is Conservative Councillor for Pettswood and Knoll Ward in Bromley. I believe you were on that protest, Simon.
I was indeed, Nick. So good evening to you.
Yes, good evening to you. So if we can agree that breathing clean air is good, how would you propose we clean up London's air without doing something about one of the main reasons it's dirty, the internal combustion engine?
Well, I think you've hit something right on the nail there. it's fair. I think nobody really wants to have dirty air, and clearly, you want to get clean air as soon as possible. Now, if I had the £350 million that was being spent on ULEZ by Mr. Khan, then I think if you were to buy roughly somewhere in the region of 600 to 700 electric buses, I think you'd find that would do far more for clean air than the current punitive tax on people just going about their daily lives.
OK, well, in a perfect world, we could get central government to chip in that £350 million and the buses would be ours, but we'd still have the problem of all these cars, these old cars belching out fumes. What should we do about those?
Well, I think that in reality, there's an evolution taking place, and that evolution is taking place probably maybe not as fast as maybe some people like, but slowly but surely cars are being replaced. You probably see more electric cars on the road now. You see a lot more hybrids. And over time, as these cars come towards their economic life, they do actually disappear and get replaced by something newer. But here's the difference, and this is why it's quite crucial. Most of those cars do very small trips. So they might be like my elderly residents that go to the doctors or to the hospital or something like that. So very small trips. Whereas a bus, and even the ones that are ULEZ compliant, I can tell you they put out a lot of fumes and things, they go around basically 18 hours a day. So they're polluting even more. And actually, if you replace those buses, and the $350 million doesn't have to come from the government, by the way, because Mr. Khan's just spent $350 million on ULEZ. So if he'd have spent it on the buses, actually he'd be improving the air everywhere, including in inner London, where it's already worse than in outer London.
Yeah, I think we've just gone round in a tight little circle there and got absolutely nowhere at all. It's like we're on a roundabout with this conversation. If the policy on ULEZ was dreamed up by the Conservative Boris Johnson when he was mayor, and it was insisted upon by the Conservative Grant Shapps when he was Transport Secretary, it seems a little odd that a Conservative councillor would be so against it.
Well, let's say, and let's start, we'll go back to where we started, which is that, clean air is very important. And Boris certainly recognised that when as mayor, and introduced the ULEZ in central London, and no one's suggesting getting rid of that. That's because the pollution is particularly bad there. As for Mr. Shapps' letter in 2020, just in the middle of the pandemic, that was about expanding up to the North and South Circular. It was nothing to do with expanding it, an area that is 3 or 4 times the existing area, out to at the very outskirts of Greater London.
Well, he was blackmailing, essentially, the London mayor by saying that if he did not increase the scope of ULEZ, then he would get no money to rescue Transport for London, still recovering from the pandemic.
And as you said, that was in 2020, and definitely related to the North and South Circular. It didn't say, by the way, you must extend it all the way to outer London.
Do you not think that it's a little strange to say that it's good to have cleaner air in central London, but we're not really that bothered beyond a certain imaginary line on the ground?
Well, I think you've got to go back to first principles. If you go back to the independent Jacobs report, which you can no longer get on the GLA website because it's been taken down for some reason, probably because it doesn't agree with what Mr. Khan likes. If you go back to that and you spot the difference between now and after ULEZ comes in, there is none. But you'll see that there is still a problem in inner London, according to the Jacobs report, which is independent, nothing to do with me, nothing to do with the Conservatives, and actually was, as I said, asked for by Mr. Khan. And you look at that and you think, well, hang on a sec, inner London is still worse, and surely you tackle the area where it's worst first. And, if there are hot spots in outer London, I think we could look at that as well.
Is that not precisely what he has done?
He hasn't. That's the whole problem. Even though ULEZ is in place, it still has poorer air quality than outer London.
Are you talking about the research that was done by Professor Frank Kelly from Imperial? Is that what you're referring to?
No. I'm talking about the independent report produced by a company called Jacobs. You can Google it, or I can send you a link after this discussion, if you like.
Right. So the suggestion was that the policies that have been introduced at that point did not have the perfect result, which was pure clean air in London. But is that not an argument for more of the restrictions on internal combustion engines, not less?
No, it's an argument for actually doing something about the transport that goes on most of the time, which is things like buses, which actually, as I say, that are operating probably anything between 12 and 18 hours a day. And actually, by cutting that down, there'll be far more improvements in air quality than actually penalising one or two old people or one or two people who've got disabilities or are poor for driving a car, which they can't afford to change.
Right, I'm not sure that's the intention or the actual result of these policies. I mean,
it is the result, and that's why people are protesting, and that's why
it's why a very small number of people are protesting, and it does seem strange that whenever people protest, and they protest about the usual things. They protest about pedestrianisation. They protest about cycle lanes. They protest about bus lanes, and so on and so on. And it's always echoing the same pronouncements of the fossil fuel industry. Is that coincidence or something worse than that?
No, I think this is a genuine concern from very many impoverished people. And I think, as you say, let's be generous to Mr. Khan and say he didn't intend this, but sometimes unintended consequences of what occur. And on this occasion, as I said, I have a lot of elderly residents who have problems. I have a whole team of police officers in our Safer Neighbourhood team who don't live in the area. Are they going to be charged to come in if they haven't got a compliant car? These are people that travel at different times of the day and night to do services for the public.
And there will always be people who are inconvenienced or discombobulated by any change. But that if we just paid attention to those people, we'd still all be riding around on horseback.
Yeah, you've got a good point there. But I think the reality is, if this was being done properly, like when it was extended to the North and South Circular, where lots and lots of notice was given to people, so people could adjust and such like, then you might have an argument. But when people are given 8 months' notice, I think it's really not good enough. But as I said, these things will change naturally anyhow. And I'm no advocate particularly for any oil industry or any particular corporate. But I certainly am in favour of, protecting people that are the most vulnerable. And I do find that it's people with disabilities, as I said, elderly and such like, and particularly the poor. I mean, we had quite a lot of people with disabilities that turned up on Saturday at Orpington. So,
yes, it's curious. It's odd though that the very people that you're talking about are those that will be affected the most by polluted air. In 2022, the Chief Medical Officer said, air pollution is associated with impacts on lung development in children, heart disease, stroke, cancer, asthma, increased mortality, and other health effects. Does all of that mean nothing compared to a small number of people complaining about the cost of driving their old cars?
No, I think you've got to, as I said, go back to the first principles. Everyone wants to clean their air. And the question is it really going to make that much difference? Because if you look at, as I said, you go back to looking at the air quality in outer London, it makes very little difference whatsoever. I talk a bit about the equivalent of, say, supposing you wanted to spend £1 million to save £1. That's what it's like. It's got nothing to do with air quality. If it was, I'd be at the front of the queue, probably with you, hand in hand, saying, let's sort this out.
You're saying that ULEZ has nothing to do with air quality?
Not in outer London, where the air quality is very good. And I challenge you. Well, you come with me, we'll take an air quality monitor, and we'll go to various places in London, and we'll see where we think the air quality is best and worse. And as you know, it's far worse on the tube than it is anywhere else.
But yes, but that's an odd argument to not do anything about what we can achieve, rather than I don't really understand that as an argument.
Well, the argument is you tackle where it is worse first.
He has,
surely
in London.
The point is, he's brought in ULEZ in London, and it hasn't worked.
So that's not an argument to not try it elsewhere. That is an argument to do more of that.
Is it? Surely, if something is not working, you look again and say, actually, shouldn't we evaluate what we're doing.
No, I think
and
that
try and do something that actually works.
Something that would actually work would be to have an actual ultra-low emission zone, as in no internal combustion cars at all. Is that what you're proposing?
No, I'm not, because as I said, I prefer in sort of a gentle evolution of these things, so that as people, retire cars and move on, then they come naturally. There are many cars that have been scrapped which are perfectly usable. As I said, they're used very, very infrequently. And the unfairness of this whole thing is that whether you do a couple of miles or you drive it around all day, you pay the same. And that's where it gets the people. That's where it gets the poor people, because they can't afford it.
Right. Okay. So your concern is for the poor.
It certainly is. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Good to talk to you, Councillor Simon Forthorpe, Conservative Councillor for Pettswood and Knoll Ward in Bromley. Ealing, Paul.
Yes.
Paul.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
I am with Nick. I'm with you on this. Women's football means absolutely nothing to me. I haven't watched a game. If it comes on the news, I'll turn it over. If it comes on the radio as in the news or whatever, I'm off to another channel.
Right.
I'm absolutely with you. I did say the other day...
That's a bit more extreme than my viewpoint. I mean, I'm just not going to go out of my way to see a game. I don't actually physically turn off the television when they talk about it on the news. But go on.
Yeah, well, I did say the other day, I'd rather dig hot daggers in my eyes than watch a game of women's football.
Is that true?
And then I thought, well, that's a bit extreme.
A little bit over the top.
Drive.
Yeah.
Huh?
A little bit over the
and
top.
Then I thought, well, there is some interesting stuff I really want to do on Sunday, like there's like watching some grass growing and paint drying, and I've really found that I might start doing a bit of paper mache.
Paper mache? Well, that sounds lovely.
I think that'd be more interesting in watching a game of women's football.
Right. See if you can fashion like a giraffe or something like that. It'd be lovely.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to do anything that strenuous, so I thought just make the paper mache, chuck the paper in the water and mix it up.
And just leave it there.
And then I heard what Gareth Southgate said when he said, then women know what they need to do to win. I thought, well, surely that must be, what he means by that is score one more goal than the team you're playing.
If only it was that simple.
Yeah, and the woman that come on or left a message and said, more women are interested in the football because there's going to be a women's team, there's going to be women playing, or there's going to be a women's team in the final or something. I mean, what did she expect to be in the women's final? Dogs? Cats? You know what I mean? A bunch of cows? You know what I mean? Of course it's going to be women.
I would actually watch that. If it was cow football, I think I would make that. That would be appointment viewing.
I'll be watching saying that.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, I think we've actually come up with a potential franchise there. I want you to train the cows, Paul, hire the venues, make sure that at least 1 million people watch, and we'll split the proceeds 50-50. What do you say?
Well, I think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Okay.
I think we'll have the women cows, definitely.
Let's make it happen. Most cows are women. Even these days of inclusivity, I think we can confirm that most cows are, in fact, women. I don't believe that is sexist to say it. All right, thanks a lot, Paul. Good work. Harrow. Hello, Bob.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Yes, Bob.
I'm a bit concerned, Nick, that you've glassed yourself.
Yeah, I think so.
And glass is an interesting word. It can be an adjective, a noun, and a verb all at the same time. So you've glassed yourself tonight. Now, we've got words in the English language. I'm just going to interrupt my concern for you with a quick discussion about words. Not only do we have a plethora of words in the English language, politicians keep inventing new ones which mean nothing, like Brexit, or amount to nothing, like ULEZ.
Brexit and ULEZ both do mean something.
But as words, they're new words, Nick. They've just invented new words. That's something. Yeah, okay, we mean something. There's an impact on the environment. There's an impact on the economy from Brexit and ULEZ, respectively. Yeah, I get that. But, why do we not do... Oh, your throat again, your glassing. That's a kind of hint. Let's return to my concern for your esophagus. If it doesn't clear up within 48 hours, Nick, go to an A&E unit and get ultrasonography or get an endoscopy and find out what is going on in your throat. I'm a bit concerned with what's going on. Genuinely,
okay, sure. Well, I appreciate your concern, Bob. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to A&E. And by the time I'm seen, I'll either be cured or dead. I do have the resignation letter that Nadine Dorris did not write. I've read her resignation letter, so you don't have to. I've summed it up before, and I'll sum it up again. Yeah, it's about 53 pages of that. But I have in my hands the resignation letter she did not write. You want to hear it? Dear Prime Minister, it has been the greatest honour and privilege of my life to have served the good people of Mid-Bedfordshire, wherever that is. I count myself blessed to have worked in Westminster for almost a quarter of a month, all told. The other 18 years were something of a blur. Booze. Despite what some in the media and you yourself, Prime Minister, have implied, my team of caseworkers and I have continued to work for my constituents faithfully and diligently to this day, writing columns in the Mail that they can read, and appearing on their televisions, consuming the parts of an ostrich that you can eat between meals without ruining your appetite. During my time as Member of Parliament, I have served under Boris Johnson, after which I was appointed Secretary of State at the Department of Culture, Digital Culture, Media and Sport, and I knew as much about culture as I did about sport. I was so great at it that no less an expert than Liz Truss offered me a job. And what does that say? Absolutely. In various departments, I did lots of stuff that was my actual job and for which I was hugely rewarded, but not rewarded enough. Why am I not in the House of Lords? I'm a lady. When I was the Culture Minister, I sat before a parliamentary committee and was found not to know how Channel 4 was financed. I determined that it should be privatised, not understanding that it didn't get public money and was already funded through advertising, which you might think was the minimum I should have learned before making a fool of myself on national TV. But making a fool of myself on national TV is one of my greatest talents. I also thought that Channel 5 had been privatised when it had never been owned by the public at all, so I suppose it was par for the course. Is that why I haven't been elevated to the House of Lords? Because if you can only get in if you know stuff, then that's highly discriminatory to those of us who don't. Plus, it's a bit strange, don't you think, that I, a very popular and talented minister, was cruelly ignored for receiving the title Lady by mysterious dark forces? The same dark forces that got rid of Liz Truss and Boris Johnson. What did they do wrong? Apart from everything that we know about both of them. So when I resigned with immediate effect, what seems like years ago, I decided to use my time between writing a column and hosting a TV show to become an investigator and find out who those dark forces are. First, I looked into why a serial liar, cheat, philanderer, lawbreaker, work-averse, needy, Russia-loving money hound such as Boris Johnson should have been cruelly removed from the post he was so obviously unsuited for. And I spoke to a lot of people, and do you know what they said, Mr. Rishi so-called Sunak? They said, "Why do you think, you addled harridan?" Case proved, I think. So it became obvious to me that the book What I Wrote about ministers not being up to the job and reneging on their duty to their constituents was incompatible with me doing my job. I mean, there's only so many hours in the day. So I decided to leave while my reputation was in tatters, to show what a total piece of work you are, Rishi Sunak, with your teeth and your hair and your shoes. You tore up Boris Johnson's manifesto, which included, and was limited to, getting Brexit done. And you replaced it with all the things that darling Boris was going to do anyway, like enriching the rich and empowering the poor. But at least he was gorgeous and funny and carefree while he was doing it, and you aren't, Rishi Sunak, with your suits and your hair and those eyes, like a little puppy's eyes after it poops on the kitchen floor. The worst thing is that you, Rishi, have demeaned the office of parliamentarian. Not like me. I've always been a lady. Why can't I be a real one and sit in the House of Lords forever, gifting the nation my wisdom and working-class, no-nonsense common sense? It's confusing to my millions of supporters who will always think of me as Lady Dorries, princess of their hearts. And unlike you, Prime Minister, I will never put my personal ambition and monetary reward above my duty to my people. And you will be able to read about that in my weekly column and TV shows and forthcoming book. I will now take time opening my thank you for leaving cards and spend the rest of my days in a dusty room wearing my best dress like Miss Havisham, who was also cruelly jilted, and David Dickens wrote a whole book about her, so no. Yours, the honourable member for nowhere, Nadine Dorries. For availability, please contact my office and I'll get back to you straight away. Seriously, I'll call you right back. Harrow, Jonathan.
Good evening, Nick.
Jonathan.
So, actually, I had a few things I want to say about...
Couple of things, yes.
My voting record and also how I feel a bit of guilt now, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I had a bit of a problem with the neighbour this morning because I was trying to call up Adam Castle in the morning.
Yeah.
And it was the whole noise issue again, so I was trying to keep it
right.
quieter.
You were trying to call up Adam Castle, and people said, "Well, I'm afraid he's not here at the moment. Can we give you over to somebody else?"
No, she was from the next door. They were saying it's in the morning you're doing the shouting again when we bump into each other. And it's true, right? Because I'll wake up. But listen...
Well, when can a person in their own home have a good shout? If they can't do it in the morning, they can't do it in the evening, when can you do it?
So, I'm not doing too well in this country because I told you about my cleaner issue. And
yeah, you had to fire one of your cleaners. I feel so sorry for you.
And then there was one other one left, and she was an Eastern European lady also.
Hang on a minute. How big is your home?
Oh, I've only got one house I rent. I can't afford to buy 3-bedroom.
You've got one house that you rent, and it's got 3 bedrooms.
I can't afford to buy because of credit crunch.
Because of credit what?
The cost of living credit crunch.
Oh, crunch. I can't be alone in being slightly apprehensive as to what it was you just said. A credit crunch. That's what you said. Right, got it. Are you okay?
Yeah, you were saying?
I was saying, how does a person who's only got a 1 3-bedroom house need 2 cleaners? How dirty are you?
No, because you have to keep your property in a good condition. Because this Eastern European second cleaner, she has also gone. He told me we had a bit of an argument because he does the boxing. He does the boxing? And she is a woman. And I said, oh...
Hang on a minute. He is a woman. Is that what you just said?
S-H-E.
S-H-E. She is a woman. Right. That's...
And does the mixed gender boxing. And I think this is... if I can, I'm going to say in a second about the Wookiee issue. No, it's serious.
So she does mixed... Did you say Zender or gender?
Yeah, the man and woman do the fighting together.
Ah, yes. Right. Is that what they're calling it? Fighting?
Disgusting.
Doesn't look like that to me.
So
are they horizontal while they're doing this fighting?
No, we had a bit of falling out.
Oh, yes.
Now I've got an Englishman, and he, number one, bit of attitude.
You're not gay, but...
Bit of an attitude. And also, he for the first day when he come to do the cleaning, the quotation price, this is not my main point, but he then tried to extort me, and I had to give him £40 in envelope, because he said he's got his guys, he says.
He's got his guys? What? So you employed the mafia to do your cleaning?
Absolutely.
And now you're being extorted?
No, I think it's only the tough guys who are doing this, because all of the Generation Z, they're all being wokey, and they're so virtuous on the internet. There was one Generation Z newspaper article where they said, oh, we're so virtuous, we stack up the plate dishes when we go out to the restaurant. It's true. And it's true. No, I'm being serious. And all the while, what are they doing? They are doing the rioting and looting in the London.
Yes.
The youngsters.
Right.
Because
the wokey cokies, they might stack up their plates when they're finished in a restaurant, but they immediately go out and do the rioting in the London. Yeah, you are quite right about that, yeah.
Because they've never been I'm not saying beat them, but the police here, everyone's saying, what is your pronoun and all of this? But can I make a quick political point? It's true.
Okay. Political point coming up. Go ahead.
And so I voted, after the Tony Blair and the Gordon Brown, I voted, for the Gordon Brown election, I voted Lib Dem.
Yes. I find that hard to believe, but go on. What persuaded you? What persuaded you to vote Lib Dem? Was it the? I've lost it. Where is it? Oh, it's gone. Are you okay?
Yeah, sorry.
Are you though?
Yes, I'm fine. You carry on. You're saying Lib Dem.
Oh yeah, the Lib Dems. What was it that most appealed to you about the Lib Dems?
Want to score some pot?
No, because I used to buy the Sun at the time, and they used to say Gordon Brown was idiot, and he bankrupted the country and the gold.
Yeah.
They said that.
Right.
And then...
That does sound like something they would say, yeah.
And then in the next election, I did not vote for the Labour each time. And in a way, I feel slightly, I don't know, guilty, because in my part of the country, in Harrow, there is a lot of immigration. And nowadays, people are so sensitive. If you go up to somebody and say, where are your family from?
and they say Harrow.
No, because I look at people, and sometimes when I'm in the chicken shop and all of this, I count the number of people from the different races and ethnicities just in my head.
In the chicken shop?
Yeah, and you can't, and you say, where are you from? You are in an interracial marriage and things like this, and you can't ask this. But the point is...
Okay, that's a little bit different from where are you from, under certain circumstances is perfectly fine, but why are you in an interracial marriage? I'm not sure about that one. You might want to rethink that.
Not why, just saying, that's interesting. It is multicultural success. But no...
And what kind of a response do you get when you point out that people are in a multiracial marriage and then congratulate them for their success?
No, it's like violent, aggressive, because...
It's met with violent aggression. Well, you might want to rethink saying that out loud.
No, but my last point, if I can, is that I see lots of poverty now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I should feel the guilty, because I've only got one house and one car at the moment.
One house, one car, two cleaners.
No cleaners now, because this fat chap is extorting me.
Did you say fat chap?
Yeah.
Right, the fat chap. Okay, that was a detail that you missed out first time around.
Yeah, but the thing is, nowadays in this country, I don't know if I should feel guilty for doing for not voting how I did, because on the one hand you call her the Cruella by Braithwaite. Yeah.
Cruella Braithwaite, yeah.
And Priti Patel. Now, some of your listeners might be shocked by me saying this, but it's just a point. They are both, like me, they're the of Indian origin. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And they are empowered women, and they've got white English husbands, and I'm not jealous, so I don't have a problem with that.
Right.
But
do you have a white English husband yourself?
No, listen to me. But the point is, they're sort of just being empowered feminist women. And in a way, I think, had they just been like the good Indian housewives and stayed at home, the Home Office might have been better. And also, I think the kiddies would be stronger if we maybe just had another war.
That's a good idea. I want you, as soon as you have another good idea, Jonathan, I want you to call me up straight away. Promise me you'll do that.
Okay. I will, yeah.
Okay, good work. Thanks a lot, mate. As long as you live that long. The fat chap is extorting me. If that is not the name of a hit song within the next week, I will want to know the reason why.